This is episode 334 of Gold Squadron Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Will, soon to be 27 years old, Hegwood, and today I'm joined by Marcel, late to the BG3 party, Manzano.
Oh, I'm already unmuted. You made it sound like the Bee Gees. It's like
The Bee Gees. The Bee Gees party.
Yeah, the Bee Gees party.
Racing class, by the way.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 we're talking about. Race is, I chose a druid. And what do you mean by class? I did the moon thing in class, like the circle moon thing.
Okay. What species
but I'm only like 3
you?
hours in, so I don't.
What species are you?
Oh, got you. I am the same class as that arrogant rogue. They got like pointy ears, but they're not elves.
Oh, druid.
Drow?
Drow. Sorry.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, the cooler elves.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
They're like the dark elf or something.
That's a lot to unpack. So we're gonna move on to Ryan. I count more this year. Staniszewski.
Yep, counting, including what I eat. So hopefully I will eat less and be smaller.
We also have James New Year, same me, Ritter.
I don't change for anybody. I'm me, right? Or is it you're supposed to change something every year? I don't know.
I think we're supposed to resolute a change, whatever that means. And most importantly, Chris Tio extraordinaire, Alan.
Hi. That's a... I don't know. My brain's already shot. It's already all over. I'm still stuck on. I was going to tell James, no, your resolution should be, I refuse to change. I'm flawless. Any change would be a downgrade.
Yeah, exactly. I'm already. This is my perfect form.
Yeah, correct. You already ate both androids. Impossible to improve.
We were just talking about Dragon Ball earlier, too.
I get that reference. Woot.
All right, well, Chris, we're so excited to have you. But before we learn everything you have to say, I have to thank the GSP Patreons. The Patreons are what runs the whole thing. Keeps our lights on, keeps the website up, and we're able to give them Discord-only, Patreon-only channels on our Discord and shareable art from our past projects. So if you want to become part of the largest group of our supporters, head to patreon.com/goldsquadron. Now, if you don't know Chris Allen, first off, I got two questions for you, Star Wars-y things, if people don't know who you are. But if you don't know who Chris is, been TOing forever. Used to be on the Carolina Crates. Huge figurehead. If you've gone to Worlds, he was your judge last year. Really just a huge list of accolades, accomplishments, whatever that word is, throughout your X-Wing career. But some easy questions for you. Do you have a favorite ship in Star Wars X-Wing? What's your favorite ship to fly?
Oh. I am a moron, so I really like Lats. Not Lats, that's wrong. I don't like Lats. I like Sicko. All the other Lats are stupid. Sicko's cool. He's the most fun ship in the game. All the other ones, I want to say Idas are fun, but they're not. They're cool looking. I can't say contractually obligated TIE Aggressor because they're not in the game anymore. May they rest in peace. One day, they're coming home.
You don't like Hawk? Hawk's pretty cool. Bear rolling?
No, he's not nearly as cool as side slipping. Sicko's actually allowed to use missiles, and he's not good at it, but he's allowed to fire them sometimes, which is exciting.
Fair enough. The only other question I got is, what color would your lightsaber be?
Oh, alright, so if you're not aware, I am super colorblind, like extremely. I cannot see any green at all, 0 green. So my favorite color is unironically gray, and the gray lightsabers I think are actually a thing now, so it's not as good of an answer as it used to be. But yeah, I like the gray lights, like the KOTOR ones.
Yeah,
I think
like
Ahsoka
Ahsoka would be
one's-
like the closest. Yeah, Ahsoka's like a lighter silver.
I think they had. I thought they had gray in one of the Force Unleashed, one of the first ones when Disney wasn't
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
double checking
Like-
everything as much.
And the Old Republic had like black ones with gray and silver like borders that were super cool. But I think Disney sent all that to the Shadow Realm. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
just assume any color lightsaber probably came from a video game that you didn't see in a movie.
or some comic book 9 people on Earth have read.
Exactly. All right. Well, we are really thankful to have you here. You are running, if I'm not mistaken, the Worlds in March at Adepticon.
That's it. Well, and it's not just me. There's I mean, if you remember last year, it was a all hands on deck crazy experience with the 6 of us. But yeah, I'm technically the adult, so it's my job to come and spread the word on stuff. So here I am. It's funny because last year we deliberately didn't come and talk to everything. You remember, it's so hard to like try to imagine how things were a year ago because it's changed so much. But like Worlds was most people's like first AMG tournament. Like it was the first thing that they ran, well, that we ran for them. You know what I mean? Like today I was going through and updating all of the like documentation that's going live next week. Like, hey, here's what you need to play. Here's the stuff you can play and can't play. Like component, all the boring stuff no one reads. And I just was like going through paragraphs and paragraphs of like, no, you can't use your painted stuff that looks like Harry Potter stuff. No, you can't use like all this stuff. And it's like, why do we need all this? And it's like, oh yeah, because before Worlds last year, like there was no OP support since like 2020 because of the COVID stuff. Like it was it. So it was the Wild West. Everybody had no idea what was allowed. So, yeah, but yeah, it's nice to. I don't know. It's been a very long time since I like was on a group of podcast recording, so it's nice to be here. So I've got just like a list of stuff to go over. I don't want to like read a bullet point, so yell at me if we're ever boring or you want to talk more about stuff.
Wait,
But
no, we're expecting like PowerPoint presentations. With,
yes. All right. Here's
like,
your slide.
little pointers. Yeah.
I brought my pillow, dude. Let's go.
All right. But yeah, so main thing is, we are recording today on January 1st. January 7th, I'm like 99% sure it's January 7th, is when the Adepticon event ordering goes up, which includes Worlds. So you're probably going, wait a minute, I need my confirmation for my Worlds invites still. Yeah, yes you do. You don't need that to buy a Worlds ticket to get an event badge. AMG will be sending out those confirmations, I believe, at the end of the month is what they said, but I would have to double check. That's not my problem, or at least it's not my problem yet. I have a feeling it might be. But yeah, so next week all of the side event registration goes up and the Adepticon badge registration goes up. So you want to make sure you get those things. So you need a pass, like a badge, to the convention. Hopefully that's obvious, but yeah.
Does that include the last chance qualifier?
Yeah, so if you want to play in the Last Chance Qualifier, you need an Adepticon badge, and you'll be able to sign up for the Last Chance Qualifier when the cart goes live on the 7th.
Okay.
And right now, that's capped at 128. If we get a crazy wait list again, I'll see what I can do about getting it bigger. This will shock you. We're very tight on space this year with how many worlds are out in the wild. So I'm not sure what the budget for space will be, because I know, especially Legion, with their huge space requirements and hundreds of invites out there, is a huge logistics problem. But yeah, the 7th is when event registration goes up. Make sure you get your badge. If you need to play in the LCQ, make sure you get your LCQ thing. Have you guys looked through or talked about the other events? Or is this all the first time you're seeing / hearing about it?
We have not talked or seen any of this.
No, we were going to wait until, I guess, registration would be open. So, now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good timing. All right. So, things are a little different this year from last year in terms of the general structure. So, we'll talk about Worlds last because it's got the most to talk about. But basically, so we're doing a prize wall again. This one's a little more structured than last time. So, you can earn tickets for every game you play. You get 5 tickets per game of X-Wing, and I'm only going to talk about X-Wing because that's what you guys care about. It's a little different for other games. We don't care about those people. We care about X-Wing. So you get 5 tickets per game of X-Wing you play, no matter what you're doing it in. So if you're playing like the World Championship, the LCQ, you get 5 tickets per game. If you win your game, you get 1 extra ticket. So you can get 5 or 6 tickets per round. You can do that 5 times a day, regardless of what you're playing in. So if you're playing in the LCQ and you lose 2 games and you drop out, and then you go and you do 3 games of something else, cool, you played your 5 games that day. You can still do other stuff, but you got your limit of tickets for the day.
So there is a limit of 25 base tickets plus wins per day.
Plus 5. So 25 to 30 per day.
Okay.
And I don't have the breakdown of what everything costs. Like, I don't know. But AMG has said that there's very cheap stuff. I believe they said cards and dice can be like single digits. And there's stuff that costs 100 or 200. They put out a list of stuff. There's like play mats and stuff. So it's not surprising that stuff is more expensive.
So, are they gonna have, like, for the people that got invites and they're gonna be potentially 25 tickets in the whole compared to people that do the LCQ? Do they have enough?
Right. So
like side events to cover like that much if they come in on the LCQ day?
So Thursday is the LCQ, and if you show up on Thursday, I'm just going down the Adepticon event registration, which actually, let me send this to you guys. I should have already done it. Here we go. There we go. So that should filter it to, I don't know if that's going to filter to X-Wing, but you can search X-Wearing, and that'll pull everything up. And it's sorted by date, which is nice. So LCQ on Thursday is one of 3 things. So the top one is very different from last year. You'll see it's called Unconventional Warfare League. That is, you can buy that ticket, and it's good for the entire weekend to play as many games as you want. You only get tickets for 5 of the games. But if you remember a couple years ago, AMG did like a format where it was during Mini Stravaganza, and no one participated because no one knew it existed. But it was like you play a list with all small ships, and then like every day you got a new perk, or you played a list with like a couple big ships. Sound familiar?
Yeah, it's like you get like perks based on what kind of squad you're flying.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing that. So on Thursday, you'll get some minor perk, and then they get bigger as the weekend goes on. So, on Thursday you might have a small benefit to your large base ships, but by the time Sunday comes around, your small base ship and your large base ship list are totally different because, you start rolling extra attack dice every shot and blah, blah, blah. So if you sign up for that league, you can just do that as your entire source of tickets all weekend and have a good time. So like Marcel, you were saying, hey, I can't play in the LCQ. What am I supposed to do? You can sign up for that. You can play 5 games of that on Thursday, hopefully have some fun. And then...
So that's like progressive, it sounds like, right? So that's like, because it's saying right there, played over 3 days. So that's kind of a progressive league.
Yeah, you don't ever get like knocked out of it. When it says progressive, what it means is like you unlock new stuff as the week goes on. So like let's say you're playing on Thursday, you get in Thursday morning, you're like, well, I want to play stuff, I want to get tickets. You can play in Unconventional Warfare. You can get your tickets for the day playing that. Then you play in regular Worlds the next day. You play 5 rounds. You do really well, and then you make it to Saturday. So you play 5 more rounds of Worlds, but then you don't make the top 16. So then on Sunday, you still have your Unconventional Warfare badge, and you can go back and play Unconventional Warfare on Sunday to continue getting tickets. And then that one event entry is good for the whole weekend for that. So that's one of the major new things. The other one that I really like, we kind of told AMG and talked OP, like told them how we generally run side events for running kits and everything. Like we tried to do it on demand. So if you remember at Gen Con, you could be like, hey, I really want to run, I want to play Aces High with my friends. But I don't want to wait for like whatever scheduled start time for it. We just want to play. Like, is that okay? And it's like, well, the logistics of it are complicated because we have to figure out how to, like, you have to go get event tickets and everything. So they came back and said, hey, let's just do this instead, which is there's going to be like a library, basically. You can just go up and you can check out whatever OP kit you want from it and play it and bring it back when you're done. And that's it. We're also going to have schedule time. So, like, let's say you want to play Children of Mandalore, one of the Children of Mandalore scenarios. I don't remember what they're called, but Beskar Recovery. You really want to play Beskar Recovery. You can either come up with a friend and say, hey, I want to play Beskar Recovery, or you can come up to the OP library And we'll have just some like scheduled time. So, maybe it'll say Saturday at 3 p.m. is Best Car Recovery. So you go, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to show up at 3 p.m. on Saturday and play Best Car Recovery then. And you can get tickets from doing that as well. The only thing I don't know off the top of my head there is what the costs and everything are there. It's not in the registration site yet, and that's not my pay grade to figure out how they're like handling costs and everything for that. I don't know if it's just go and grab a kit and you're good, or if it's going to be a generic ticket. On the registration site right now, it's just there are no tickets for sale. So I don't think you need to worry about it selling out or anything. But yeah, so that's broadly how it's going to be handled. One of the bits of feedback we got, I can't remember if it was from you guys. Marcel was asking if I was spying earlier, but somebody said about Gen Con, it was like, yeah, I really like the side events, and it was cool that they were firing off, but like it was my first event I've ever been to, and I didn't know anyone. I didn't want to just go around asking random people like, hey, I really want to play this. Do you want to play with me? Because it's kind of awkward, right? So that way, it's kind of the best of both worlds. So you can do the FFG 2019 World style fire event off with your friends whenever you want, or if you're just trying to meet people, you can do that as well. That makes sense?
Yeah, honestly, that OP kit library sounds like a way better compromise, because I remember previous years you would just have lists upon lists of events scheduled for like Aces High and all the other side of it. And they've made actually quite a lot, like doing the droid soccer, the 2 different Mandalorian things, Aces High. Like there's actually quite a bit with as well all of the battle scenario packs, Battle of Yavin, the Siege of Coruscant, maybe Battle over Endor, Byworlds or not, who knows? Like there's actually quite a bit of non-regular X-Wing stuff available to play right now. So just having a library whenever, that's pretty awesome.
So a question with let's say you're coming in and you're flying Resistance for your list at LCQ and Worlds, and like that's your tournament list, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to do one of these like library card, check out your OP kit, but it's the CIS against the Galactic Republic. You need to have your own CIS and Galactic Republic ships, or
so the stuff that will be there to check out for like Yavin and Coruscant will be what's in the kit itself. So like the Invisible Hand cardboard, the Yavin Trench. So you'll need to bring your own like Rebel and Empire list or Republican Separatist stuff.
Okay, and you don't have to play. Do you have to play? For example, again, just talking about for the people that come with their with their tournament list. Do you have to play those with the Republic and the CIS, or can you like swap in different factions or different lists?
I mean, so you could nobody's gonna come and check and make sure you're playing legally, right? If you and your opponent are like, let's do.
I guess that's
right.
Does it function? Does it work?
I mean, realistically, like Yavin mostly works with random faction stuff. The Siege of Coruscant stuff just doesn't, because you need Ion-specific stuff. It's all built around, especially the Separatist respawning ships are supposed to be the other things. But I think actually the answer to your question is also on Thursday. There's just a 4-round Swiss prep for people that are just like, I'm here to win the world championship. I've got my resistance list. I'm here to win. Just put me in. Give me some practice. And the nice thing there is, it's a 4-round Swiss, but you can just hop in whatever you want. So like, let's say you get there at 2 p.m. You can just join around 2 or 3 when you get there, and that's totally fine. So that's all the Thursday stuff. Unsurprisingly, Friday, basically all of our space is for the World Championship. I don't know exactly how many people that's going to be yet, because people haven't started telling us they're coming, of course. So we won't really know exactly how much space it is until the day of. Whatever space we don't need for Worlds, you'll be able to use for the other things. I just don't want to try to make promises on how much space that'll be, because 500 people could come back and say, hey, I'm coming to Worlds, and it's going to be very tight. But once we start kicking people out that aren't doing well enough on Saturday, we have more of the same events. The only major new thing in there that I hope people are excited about, you'll see there's that Adepticon Presents Star Wars X-Wing Doubles. So they actually asked us to run this because they saw Dion did it in 2022. It was like, hey, there isn't an official doubles format for X-Wing, we are aware, now that Epic is no longer with us. But we want to have a team event because people enjoy team events, and team event as in like, multiple people at the same game having a good time. So it's small right now. So if you wanted, there's only 32 slots for it right now. That's not 32. No matter what happens, we can't add more space. It's just 32 because we don't know how much to expect people will want to do it. So if you want to do it, sign up and get on the wait list, and we'll make sure we get more space added to it. But
So
that is
32 teams, not 32 people.
yes, 32 teams, so 64 players. Yeah, and it's just a 4-round Swiss, so one of each scenario with a teammate, and it is as simple as we could get it to hopefully have it be fun. The main thing to note there is it's 18-point games instead of 20, which probably sounds weird off the top of your head. So, like, let's say me and Marcel were going to be a team. I would bring 9 points. He would bring 9 points. And together we have an 18-point list. And they can be different factions. They can be the same faction. Stuff that's unique is not unique between our lists. So I can play Darth Vader. He can play Darth Vader. And otherwise, it's a normal game. You're playing to 18 points instead of 20 to win the game as well. And the reason for that is if it's 20 points, you can't play 9-point ships, which is sad because there's some very fan favorite 9-point ships like Boba Fett and Darth Vader. So it seems like we should probably include those.
I was gonna say two people show up on the same team, one, and they both bring Vader Defender, both bring Boba Fett. Whatever.
Nothing happens the miniatures game. But yeah,
is there any way to sign up as like a solo queue player?
Yeah, so it's one of the logistics headaches that we have that I'm trying to find a good solution for. So you are absolutely welcome to show up with 9 points by yourself, and we will find you a teammate. We'll have to find some way to refund one of your tickets, and you can use it for something else. That's in the event packets that are going live. There's a bunch of event packets with all these details in them going out next week. They're what I'm currently working on. But yeah, so you're 100% welcome to just go play with a random person. That's why the factions and everything you don't have to play the same faction, and stuff that is unique isn't unique between players, so that you don't have to worry about like, oh no, what if my teammate is also bringing, I don't know, Death Troopers? What am I going to do?
I hate that you can play Darth Vader on I'm about to face 2 Darth Vaders, but yeah, that makes sense. That makes so much more sense logistically. Just be like, whatever, like it's fine. It probably won't be too broken, right?
Yeah, well, and the funny thing is, so on that note, I know there's someone listening to this that's going, wait a minute, Chris. Oh, I can't play my 8-point ship now. 9 points is the limit, right? That sucks. And it's like, well, I'm sorry, man. The 8-point ships are like Maul Gauntlet, okay? We had to they expect one of us in the wreckage. You
need to say 8-point ship.
Yep. But yeah, the other thing is, so one of the common complaints you hear about the game, about X-Wing, for people that are like unhappy with the AMG change, especially the last points, is like, I wish everything were more expensive because there's too much stuff on the board. And really, I'm going to rephrase what they mean is there's too much stuff on the board. I wish I had like list for fewer points, right? It's much easier to just say, let's play with 18 points instead of 20 versus let's rebalance the cost of every ship in the game. So I'm hoping that this gives some kind of avenue for a casual game where people can kind of just see what an 18-point game would be like. Yeah, but otherwise the rules are all normal.
I just realized that you've also banned Kylo as well.
Which Kylo?
Silencer is 7 points.
Silencer, yeah.
Oh, yeah, salute. That is true. I didn't do that. It's my bad.
Rip.
Only faction without 2 points.
Yeah,
Yep.
only faction without a 2-pointer. Yeah, R.I.P.
Sorry. I expect the angry hate mail in the mail. Thank you.
It's already, yeah.
I mean, Kylo users being hateful. I mean, it just works, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah, come in with your Kylo lightsaber, violently swing it around, get kicked out of Adepticon. It'll be great. Let's do it.
Yeah, get good with Kylo Whisper, right?
Yep. Yeah, good call though. It's funny because I played a little bit of this and I spent a long time in Yasby trying to figure out, like, is this actually fun? Because I'm sure 2 people are going to bring Darth Vader Defender, and it's like, that probably won't be a lot of fun with their opponents. I'm sure someone's going to bring like a rack with Death Troopers next to a Afra with whatever, handing out stress and then you can't remove, right? There's a bunch of really gross stuff you can do with cross-faction cards, but...
two different Harris.
Yeah.
It's giving each other tokens.
So is this... Sorry. Go your question first, but then I had a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go
Does
ahead.
each player have to bring 2 ships, or is it
Nope.
just? Okay, so someone could bring a 9-point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
he's
can
saying
just
it could be
bring
2
my list
Bobas
is defend
versus
evader.
2
Oh.
defenders.
Oh, God. I thought we were saying that's not allowed. It is allowed. Oh,
No,
no.
it is
It
allowed.
is
Oh no,
allowed.
no! I already am like, yeah, it's probably allowed. We'll deal with it.
Yeah. So the with the cross faction stuff, is it going to work? Is your teammate going to be a friendly or an alliance?
Yep. Yeah, so we're ignoring all the rules on allied versus friendly. Everything's friendly just for simplicity's sake, which means, yeah, you can run Hera and Hera in your list and then pass 2 tokens to them and all that good stuff. It'll be a little wild. One of the benefits of having all the prizes mostly be for participation for side events is things can be a little broken.
That sounds fun, though. I actually think it doesn't need. The tournaments tend to be very try hard and very serious, so it's nice to have
Yeah.
something that's just like broken and whatever. You might have, 3-point ships, so that's 6 ships against just like 2 Vader defenders.
Yeah, 2 Vader defenders.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so hopefully that's fun. It's very much, I mean, there's going to be more games played of that than we tested of different point limits and everything in the first round of Swift, right? So stuff's going to break. That's okay. Hopefully we can get a good doubles format out of it over the long term. Maybe one that AMG will officially support. I don't know. I can't promise that. It's just something they asked us to run and figure out.
I think this may be one event that I like to keep my eye on of like what comes out of it, because I think there's a lot of spicy stuff to come out of 2
Oh,
teams
yeah.
and 9 points.
So I assume ban list's still active, right?
Yep, it's just it's standard. So
Okay, I
Oh,
double
standard,
checked my
okay.
brain real quick. I was like, Sabine, Crew, and Deathfire?
no.
No, not allowed. Sabine, Crew still banned.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
Goji and Deathfire.
Oh yeah, Sure.
New Goji meta. Yeah, I'm sure some wonky stuff will come out. The funny thing is, it's during the day 2 Swiss, like round 6 through 10 of the regular Swiss. So you can't really like if your goal is to do really well at Worlds, you can't really like plan on playing in doubles. So I will see something I don't know if I have the power to do, but is on my list of stuff like to do is if people want to just go to the OP library and play doubles, if that's chill. I would like the answer to that to be yes, but there might be some reason I can't think of that it would be no. So I've got that on my list of stuff to bring up to Adepticon and say, hey, is this okay? Because I'm sure people will do really well and then want to have played doubles. And it's like, well, I missed my only chance. That sucks.
Yeah, I didn't pre-purchase it because I thought I was going to do well.
Yeah, right. Or it's sold out or something like that, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Sunday, again, the same unconventional warfare stuff is running. The top 16 is running. The OP kit library is running. There's also a 3-round Swiss if you just, like Marcel, I brought my resistance list. Let me grind out more games. That's your avenue for that. So that's like all the events that are running. So other than Worlds. So you guys ready for our Worlds format breakdown? You got your
Haven't even
pillows?
started the
Everybody got their eye
actual
mask?
breakdown
Yep.
So for people that were there last year, it'll look familiar, but let's assume people weren't there last year. So we're looking at 10 rounds of Swift. That's a lot. That's a big number. It's a big, scary number. So on Friday, there will be 5 rounds of Swiss. So you have to be there Friday to play. It's not, oh, I'm going to show up Saturday and I'll play the Saturday heat. You're going to miss out on playing. You have to be there Friday. The people that have at least 8 tournament points will progress to round 6 of Swiss on Saturday.
Wait. Say that again.
Which part?
The Friday.
Yeah, the Friday is day 1 of Swiss, and then
Yep.
and Saturday is continued.
So
day
it's not
2 of Swiss.
heat. It's not heat 1. It's day
Correct.
1.
Same
Correct.
as last
Day
year.
one.
Yeah.
Same as last year.
Yep. So there are 10 rounds of Swiss, of which you are required to play all 10 if you're going to make the cut. You can't show up Saturday and be like, all right, guys, I'm ready for Swiss.
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
already
Where's
missed
my
rounds
where's
1
my
through
5 buys, Chris? What the heck?
Yeah, it's true.
Look, I never lost
The
on
ultimate
Friday, so
I've
I
never
should
lost.
be here, right?
You said X and 1, right?
Yeah, so but 8 tournament points, if you're not familiar, is 2 wins and 2 draws or better. So it's 3 points for a win, 1 point for a draw. So if you go 3 and 2, you'll make it. You probably won't make the cut, but it's possible to. And 3 wins or 2 wins and 2 draws, you almost certainly won't make the cut. But again, it's possible to. So, like as a reference point, when it was a top 8 cut with about 180 players last year, I think that sounds right. It was a top 8 cut.
Something, because I remember I was the last one let in.
You were the last one. The gates opened up exactly enough.
Well, yeah, maybe in the chat he put in like the whole breakout thing, or you're not doing that yet?
No, that's what it should look like this year. That's spoilers for the future. But yeah, I'm expecting kind of a similar breakdown as last year. If we have about 300 players that show up to play, it'll be possible to make cut at 3 and 2, or at 3 and 2 on day 1, but not guaranteed. So like last year, 8th and 9th place were both 3 and 2, and like 8th and 9th in Swiss after 10 rounds had both been 3 and 2, and they were, strength of schedule competing to be the 8th seed, and only one of them made it. May Crispy rest in peace. Yeah, and let's see. Let me check my format stuff to see what else. It is a top 16 this year, not a top 8. That's probably surprising for those of you that follow the stuff I put out, but we can get away with it with 10 rounds. That it shouldn't be intentional draw hell, and all those games should mostly be meaningful. There will be a couple players like round 9 that none of their games matter anymore, but we're looking at like 3 or 4, not like 9 or 10. So hopefully that means if you're X and 2 or X and 1 and you lose a game, that you're not just out of the tournament, because 10 rounds of Swiss is a lot. It's very easy for one minor thing to go wrong, and it's sad when that ends the tournament. So
is that increase from last year from 8 to 16 just purely based on your projected numbers in the Worlds event?
Yeah, so I don't know exactly, and we can't really know exactly. I know how many invites are out there so far, but I don't know how many people are actually going to show up. So I'm projecting in the stuff we're putting out about 300, but it could be significantly higher and it could be significantly lower. So at 300, we have a very clean top 16 at 10 round. It would be everyone at X and 2 or better, 8 and 2 and better, I should say, not X. But if 250 people show up, suddenly those lines start getting a little less clear. Or if more people show up, then some people at 8 and 2 start missing cut.
So I know in the past the biggest Sunday concern has been time, and
yes,
the venue kicking you out at like 4 p.m. Usually, like at 4 p.m. they start putting pressure on get out.
Yep.
So the 4 rounds, I'm assuming Sunday starts early.
Yep. I think on the website right now it's listed at 9 a.m. We'll probably start earlier than that, like 8:30ish. But yeah, we're looking at starting like 8:30, 9 o'clock. Thankfully, elimination rounds are quick, because when everyone's done, we can start the next one, and there's half as many people there every time. The one thing I don't want to do is have those guys in the top 16 play an absolute brutal marathon where they don't have time to eat or drink. So, don't stress out too much. I'll make sure you're taken care of, other than you might have to wake up early. Let's see. So, did you guys go over the prize wall article and everything?
Nope. We did not, because we did not do PyCal last week.
Cool. Can I get Ryan to read for us as his contractually obligated job? Because I gotta give my voice a rest for a second.
Oh, you're good. Do
you have that, or do you need me to send it to you?
Yeah, just send me a link real quick.
All right, I'll find it real quick.
Is that just an article straight up from AMG though?
Yeah.
Click clack. Let's see where we're at.
click clack. Get me over to.
Yeah, clack clack, clickety clack clack clack. There you go. Boom.
I got it fast.
You got it. Okay. Cool.
Oh no.
So the part that everyone's gonna care about. Oh yeah, if you've got it, the section under what are the Adepticon Presents events? Oh no, just kidding. I see mention of an AMG prize wall. Can you tell us more about that? That's what you care about.
It's about 2/3 down the way the page, or about halfway.
There it is. Cool. All right. So.
Thank you. I'm going to disappear briefly while we listen. I'm here though.
Sure. So this is going over as part of the latest transmission in the AMG page. about the Adepticon 2024 new play format overview prize wall. The question came up in the discussion. Hey, I see you mentioned AMG prize wall. You can tell us about that. Basically, all official or Adepticon presence AMG events will award prize wall tickets that allow participants to choose the prizes. I think Chris went over most of that stuff where it's like you can play any game. You might get a varying different ratio of tickets per game because I think they haven't set, like, X-Wing is 5. That's what we generally care about. But if James wants to go play Shatterpoint, it may or may not be 5, but those tickets can still be used across the board on anything.
Right,
but
yeah. It'll probably be more or less based on the game time.
Yeah,
right?
how long the game takes,
Armada
right?
players probably going to be getting more tickets per game.
Legion players are probably going to be getting more tickets per game, etc. I think X-Wing might end up being the ones who get the least amount of tickets per game theoretically, because I think
I think Shatterpoint is I think Shatterpoint is 2 hours, I think, or an hour and a half, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway,
Shatterpoint and X-Wing are 5 tickets per game. Armada and Legion are 8, and then they're 2 for winning, and they get 3 per day. So
gotcha. Yeah, checks out. Same number.
Yeah.
All right. So game-themed items that are available. There are lanyards, photo quality art prints, canvas art prints, posters, 3-foot by 3-foot game mats, or a normal, we're used to game mats, 3-foot by 6-inch card mats, which are like meant to be used to put all your cards for your list, X-Wing list, Shatterpoint list, Legion list, whatever. Dice bags and tool bags. I'm not sure what the tool bags are, what that entails. It's the only one I have a question on. Everything else,
like longer tool bags that you could put like your templates in.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, your range rulers, your templates,
but those 3 feet by 6-inch card mats are meant for either along the board edge of either the neutral edge or your edge. So like it's like a little fancy card mat. If you're used to like Magic the Gathering or other card game having like card mats, it's like that for your.
Yeah, actually, I can visuals here. I don't have one of the ones they're gonna show badly, but
man, I was like, no way, you don't have one already.
No,
I mean, if anyone would, it would be him.
If anyone would, it would be him. Maybe.
All right, like this is a card game playmat. This is like
it's a
little under 3 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a 2.5 by 1.
Yeah, so you're looking at like 6 inches by 3 feet. So this way you can take.
Yeah.
I got an X-Wing card over here, right? I got an unlimited card, good enough, right? So you can take your list and be like, all right, cool, here's my Luke Skywalker. I'm going to put some upgrades on it. And that way you've got a nice storage space for your list underneath the mat.
Yep, and then there's some game component stuff. There's alternate art foil promo cards. There's new dice. That's a big thing. We're getting new dice back for this world's new colored dice, color swirled dice, new acrylic tokens, and new design acrylic. They're going to narrow down the final details, plan to release ticket costs. Then, I don't know, Chris, do you think I need to...
No, the only interesting thing in here other than that is, it's implied in the rest of the article, but I can just outright say much easier than you can like read and infer. So, there is stuff at Worlds that is exclusive to Worlds. There's participation cards that are not... They don't say what they are. The only place to get those will be at Worlds, and my understanding is they're very cool and have World-specific stuff on them, like a stamp or something like that. The rest of the stuff on the prize wall is like and again, this is secondhand, so sorry if I screw up some details, but the high-level idea is like this is the 2024 OP prizes. So like maybe you go to Adepticon and you get like, oh, I got the playmat I really wanted, and I got some dice, right? Cool. Then I went to Gen Con, and they have the same prizes there, but I saw some cards that I also wanted, right? So I'm going to spend my prize tickets on those this time. So they'll have the same set of prizes like over the course of the year, and you're very much not intended to get all of them. It's supposed to be like a choose what you want situation. And that way you have an incentive to go to multiple conventions, but if there's something you really want, you can get it at the one you go to.
I would guess we haven't seen any of it yet, but the hot commodity by just the text right now is probably going to be the dice.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, let's see, is this text still here? Yeah, so if you look at the X-Wing event descriptions, there's a line in here that says, players in the event will receive tickets, blah, blah, blah. They will be reward 5 tickets. There will be several items on the prize wall for 5 tickets, such as promo cards and dice. So, sounds like if you want dice, you can get some dice. And it won't take forever. Top-end prizes will be 100 to 200 tickets. And
those might be funny. Some of the art prints, depending on
size. I don't know the cost of everything other than, we can use our brain and say, I bet a die is 5 tickets, right, from reading that. But, I don't know the economy of everything or anything. That's also not my job. But the cool thing there is, well, cool. It depends on your perspective. If you do some quick math, you can say, hang on, all right, so I can get 30 tickets a day, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's 4 days. That's 120 tickets. But if something costs 200 tickets... you have to combine forces with a friend. So, yeah. And that's where I wanted to bring up the bottom thing of this thing here. It says Adepticon tickets can only be used at Adepticon. So it's not like you can take your Adepticon tickets to Gen Con and be like, all right, well, now I finally saved up for this 200 ticket thing. No.
I was about to ask, like, it sounded like if there's something that's 200 and you can only do 120, it sounded like it was meant to carry over to other events, but it's not.
So. Yeah, at least my understanding is, again, I'm not the adult in charge of the prize ball stuff. I'm just going off what I've been told. But yeah, they are aware that some stuff you're gonna have to join forces for, and that stuff is very cool. So, yeah. And I preemptively answer the question I know is coming. I don't know how they're handing out tickets. I don't know if it's like a computer database and you tell them, hey, we played our game, they're real cool, here's your tickets, or if it's physical tickets or whatever. But yeah.
Care about the trees, don't print tickets.
True.
So these are brand new color swirled dice. So brand new dice, not dice from previous events or like last year, the forgotten years or anything like that. These are brand new dice.
Yep, everything on that list that they have on the prize wall here is all new stuff. If you were at Gen Con or the most recent Adepticon, you saw AMG trying to get rid of their old inventory.
Yeah, we sort of saw that. Yeah, it's like throwing stuff at people. Yeah.
Really trying to get new stuff out.
Yeah, this says FFG on it. Throw it at somebody.
So yeah, hopefully any questions or anything on that.
No, it sounds super cool.
It's pretty clear, but...
I don't know if this did get clarified or not. But the prize ball is a game generic, right? So if I wanted to go get, if I wanted to spend like 30 tickets on, and I got my 30 tickets on X-Wing, I could spend those on like Shatterpoint prizes.
Yep. Or like, so for example, for Shatterpoint, I think it's Shatterpoint, Gonk Racing, which I'm going to be honest, so we've had the, prospective schedule going around, and I looked at the other game systems just to make sure, there wasn't any crazy conflicts people would care about. And I kept seeing Gonk Racing in there, and I thought it was like a placeholder or like a post or something. But then I was talking to, we were having one of the scheduling meetings, and I was like, so what's Gonk Racing? They're like, oh, it's actually Gonk Racing. I was like, what are you talking about? So there is an event where you race Gonks. Take control of your very own Gonk and race through a scrapyard. They may not be fast or stable, but they are entertaining. So yeah, if you like play some Shatterpoint, you're like, I want to do whatever Gonk racing is. One, you can get prize stakes you can spend on X-Wing stuff, and two, you can tell me what it is because I am fascinated.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of cool events. No matter what game you play. I'm assuming that there also be. I know only because you mentioned it. It sounds like there may also be some unlimited things going on as well.
I hope so. That's news to me if there is.
Not from AMG. It would be from AMG.
Yeah, some of the questions I get are hilarious. One of them was, "Can we play unlimited for the OP kit library?" And I was like, "That is the wrong company, man." Technically all Asmodee, but yeah, I can't help you on that one, Chief.
It says after hours, I'll join you.
yeah. So actually, on the subject of, actually, I have one more thing I need to remember to say. LCQ, because people are going to ask and they're not going to read. It is not like last year. We are not going to have another 70-way intentional draw to make it through the cut because the format is bad. That's my bad. Never again. Okay. So this year, it is in line with the store championships. So the LCQ is 4 rounds of Swiss, and based on how many people show out, get invites. So 1 invite per every 16 players, plus 1. So if there are like 15 players in the LCQ, which there's certainly going to be more than 15 players, but there'd be 1 invite. If there's 25 players, it'd be 2 invites, right? So that is every undefeated player will get an invite. Obviously, there are draws in X-Wing, so it might get uglier than that. So, like, let's say there's enough for 12 invites to go out. There's enough players, which I think is 128. But there's only 15 undefeated players because in the last round, 2 3-0 players unintentionally drew. The top player by standing would get the 16th invite. Make sense?
So can you
seems
say
fair.
can you say it again? So what is it? It's per. It's based on the number of players that actually joined the LCQ.
Yes.
Initially.
Yeah. So just like it's basically we're running like a
+1.
Yeah, it's basically like we're running a super final set of store championships. So for every 16 players that show up, there's 1 invite that goes out. And then, let's say there's 4 sets of 16 players, so there's 64 players and then 5 more, so there's 69 players. Nice job, Chris. Good job. Nailed that one. There'd be 5 invites.
Okay. Oh, so
that way.
It's yeah. What 1 plus like 17 would be 2 invites.
Exactly. Yeah, because at 17 players, you might have 2 undefeated players, and it would be really sad to go undefeated and not get.
So essentially, number of invites, the top standing players at the end of the LCQ will get invites based on those numbers.
And that breakdown, if you're bad at math, is just on the event list. It says 1 to 16 players, 1 invite; 17 to 32, 2 invites; blah blah blah, all the way to 128. And then if we end up getting more space for the LCQ because it's super high demand, obviously that would continue to scale up.
Awesome. Pretty simple once you explain it. Yeah.
Yep. Let's see. So, Stanley, you mentioned unlimited. So, very important side quest. Yeah, we got a problem, man. I play too much unlimited. I've got a fixed box, like a case coming in when the game comes out.
1 case?
Yeah, 1 case, like 6 booster boxes.
Those are rookie numbers. You gotta pump up those numbers.
I know. So I should have some like draft cubes of unlimited at Worlds. Hopefully we have free time to play some. And you're like, what I really want to do is I really want to draft unlimited at 11 p.m. after Worlds. Just play unlimited.
Yeah. I also have to be up at 5 a.m. Yeah, that's like 6 hours from now. Yeah.
Yep. Look, we know we're gonna be tired. Okay, it is what it is. You just have to accept it.
Hey, you're not gonna get any less tired from getting a little bit less sleep.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that should be fun. Because unlimited dropped like 2 weeks before. It's like the 8th or 9th or something.
Drops the 8th, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the 9th.
And yeah, Adepticon is the 20. Starts on the 21st.
Where's that event package at? To get
What's
into
up?
Chris's
True.
Draft
Exclusive people who are still awake after we finish packing up. Everyone's just dropping like flies to play unlimited. Nope, fell asleep, couldn't make it. All right, let's see.
Payment to get into the cube. Help judges close out the night.
True. Can I play unlimited? Yes, but you have to go sweep under that table. Let's see. Tim told me I was contractually obligated to say if you have rules questions, send them our way ahead of time. So post them on Facebook or something, or you message me on Discord. I am. Discord got rid of their username things, but I am just BRUNAS. If you send me a message, I promise I will read it.
So this could be
we'll get to it.
So I'm thinking this, and then I'm assuming the people probably could too. If we look at the most recent Worlds qualifier PAX Unplugged.
Yes.
Did they any rules questions that they may have had, or I don't know, is there any reasonable thing to think that any of the rules that have already been ruled on for the Worlds qualifiers in the past have changed?
So I can't speak for all of them because I don't know. So like, especially, I don't know what like the Eastern European World Open qualifiers have done for rulings. I don't know what some of the, especially like the East Asian and Oceania ones. I talked to Tim and Chris Mitchell some, but there's not some super secret spy network of all these things. So I don't know for sure. I don't expect any surprises would be my thing. So our starting point for, and not our finishing point, our starting point for the rules addendum we're starting this week is going to be based on the Gen Con one. So I don't know of any of that stuff. I can't promise none of that's going to change because I don't like do AMG rules stuff. But I would be very surprised if any of it did.
I assume there might be some clarifications that you may need to put down for like the bomber pack or the YT-20.
Yeah, exactly.
That came after Gen Con. That might be about it.
Yep, and if like Endor drops before Worlds, then we might have to put out an emergency set of questions.
So yeah, segue into that question. Do you know yet if there's a cutoff date for that to come out to not be usable at Worlds anyway?
There is a date. I put it in the packet. That packet has not been approved by AMG yet, so I don't want to say it yet. But on the 7th, when all the stuff goes live, it'll be there. Yeah, there's a date. It is before the date of Worlds, or you don't have to worry about like, oh, Endor came out on Monday. It's Thursday. I'm playing in the LCQ. I had no chance to get it. What am I supposed to do? This isn't fair. You're not going to live in that universe. Don't panic. And you're also not going to live in the universe where like, it comes out like February 1st, and you're not allowed to play it. So somewhere in there's a reasonable date that will be the no. This is the points cutoff. This is this, like if the rules change cutoff.
Just to know if we would expect like for Worlds, because it is the Worlds event, like we've had World qualifiers in the past, and maybe even some store chance for some people who like there's a week or two prior to that. If Worlds would give even more time for that type of additional content being added to the game.
Yeah, and I really hope we don't end up in the universe where like the rules change. I don't know why they would like, oh, we changed all the scenario rules the Monday before World after the date. Like that would be very silly. I don't anticipate it. But yeah, if it comes out late enough, don't panic. We're not going to change the rules on you the week before or whatever.
No X-Wing 3.0? A week before.
True, yeah.
Before it drops.
Do you have to go buy a whole new edition of stuff?
Yeah, this is actually
third edition
launch of third edition. Yep.
And also, only third edition will be legal here. Good luck, Godspeed, gentlemen.
Yeah, no rules changes at all. Yeah, I'm sure.
Look, I do recall AMG has said in the past that they were thinking about doing like special scenarios or new scenarios for events. So
man, can you imagine a new scenario at Worlds?
Okay.
Like Chris is already.
I've been talking up.
Please,
I
no.
want the Wizard
Yes.
ending. 1994's The Wizard, where they had to play Super Smash Bros. To win the big tournament at the very end of the thing. Would be amazing. Final table, brand new scenario. Come on, Chris. Let's do it.
Yes.
Go.
True. It'll be exactly as fair as doubles. Good luck.
Yeah.
It would literally be
Wait,
like,
top four is all of a sudden.
X-Wing looks very much like low level X-Wing because no one knows what they're doing.
No, I
What
like
is
that
the
better.
scenario?
Top
What
four
do
is
I
all of a
do?
sudden doubles, Chris. Let's go.
Yeah, pick a teammate.
doubles. Your opponent gets to pick your partner.
Yeah, you get to the top four, you have to pick a teammate, and then the winners of the doubles game play in the finals. There you go. I'm sure that will be.
And
so
they're
the draw in the
they're playing to
finals
do
of just
objective.
yeah, the draw in the finals of 2023 Worlds was not drama enough. I need more stress in my life. We need the doubles top four unannounced.
I was going to ask, being that you've already gone through a draw in the finals of previous Worlds, have you yet changed this year's potential of a draw in the finals in this year's Worlds?
It's funny because I think about that. Like,
There's no way it can happen twice, right? That's your.
Yeah, true. What are the odds? No, it's funny because I realized going through the tournament document last year, it specified what was going to happen in the case of a cut. If there was a draw, right, it would be a player order roll. But I still wonder. So I think it would have been massively inappropriate for me to suggest a rules change at the last second because of. But I don't know. So if you're not aware, Andrew Cox is a good friend of mine. So if I'm suggesting a rules changes, he's playing in the finals that could potentially or not benefit him, right? That's extremely inappropriate. So I said nothing. But I think the brighter timeline for that finals was having two world champions. like having a.
Oh man, why are you like
It would have
this?
been very wholesome.
Having co-champs, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, like
they split the trophy down the middle.
yeah, you know, like you know, trophy, but they both get world championship status or whatever. It's been very. I've been retreating from the X-Wing internet some, but from what I can see, I don't know Nicholas personally, but from what I've seen, he's very wholesome, very beloved, good influence, which is nice. We've had a very good string of like very good for X-Wing community world champions, so I'm glad that's continued.
Yeah,
yeah,
we even have little dice cup emoji for our chat.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just like one of those like, oh, I wonder, one of those like questions that keep you up at night. Like, would that have been better? I don't know. Maybe that's something we should have done.
All I'm hearing is if I get in the finals, I should offer my opponent a.
Yeah, well, like that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone watching that game knows that it's an unintentional draw, but we don't want to get into the universe where everyone's like, "Oh, well, I got in the finals with my friends, so let's unintentionally draw," and then it's a whole mess. So like, yeah, it probably is better off this way, but one of those things that keeps me up.
So to answer the question, I know we kind of bounced around it. Are there any kind of changes that have been talked about for the final?
No,
okay.
Yeah, the like what happens if there's a draw is a like rules question to the game that we don't have powers to change at a tournament level, right? That is an AMG has to tell us
Gotcha.
type situation.
So at this time, it is still a road roll.
Yep.
Okay.
And if that changes, well, one, it would be a surprise. But two, yeah, obviously we'll put the word out as far and fast as we could. If anything,
I
like
can't imagine it'll be. There's no way it can happen twice, right? That's
what are the odds? 0%. And the funny thing is, like, I remember we sat down last year. We're like, oh god, I hope there's no draws in the cut. Like, no, nobody wants. There's only 7 cut games in a top 8, right? Like, the odds of one of a draw were pretty low because it's like 1 or 2% of games are unintentional draws. Right. So it's like there's 7 of them, like blah blah blah. But now for top 16, we've got 15, and it's like there's probably gonna be a draw somewhere.
Yeah, one could say literally double the chance.
Yes, more than you got 15 instead of 7.
Yeah. Awesome. Good question, Ryan.
All right, you guys ready for controversy? I'm gonna start a controversy. And thank you for answering the LCQ question. I was gonna go back, but Will's got
I did. It's the 21st. We'll be streaming it, I hope.
James? Actually, and Marcel.
Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. Really, I should have asked you before we started recording. Do you mind if I talk about your game at Gen Con that I stepped in on for a little bit? Not in a like to attack you way, but it's a very good example of something I was about to talk about. Oh, you're muted. Oh. We've got Robot Marcel.
It sounds like
you're good now.
He remembers. Hello?
Yeah, I just want to before I.
Oh, there it is.
All right, yeah, it's the Bluetooth on this thing. Sometimes it just goes off. But yeah, go for it.
All right, cool. So there's a couple.
I will see you again. So tread lightly.
No, actually, I was gonna say. So it's funny because. Yeah, I know, but like, so those situations are like the absolute, I guess, background stories. So, since you're on blast here, I'll put your opponent on blast too. We're both very respectful to each other. One wasn't unhappy or whatever, but basically got over to a table and Marcel and Zach Bart were playing. We're both, aside from just like having reputations as like good human beings that are not like doing weird things. Like I personally know. I don't know if you remember Marcel, but we played. I'm certain you don't remember. I don't know why you would remember this. The Gen Con that you won. We played in Swiss. I think I was your one loss in Swiss. And yeah, and I was measuring a shot from my shuttle, my Lambda shuttle, because I played Palp Aces because I'm bad at the game. And I was measuring a shot from my shuttle. That was kind of close. Like it was probably in, but it was kind of close. And I like knocked my shuttle to Kingdom Come, right? Like into an entirely new universe. Like knocked it over. It was over. So I was like, well, all right, well, okay. Now he doesn't have the shot, whatever. And you stopped me. You were like, hey man, like I'm pretty sure you had that. You should just do it. And I was like, are you sure? Like that's like I appreciate it, but like I'm the one that screwed the game state up, right? There's 100%. You were like, yeah, like come on. But I don't know, like that stuck with me. That was very cool to see because that was one of the first like really big tournaments I went to. So, like yeah. So, anyways, we get a similar situation in their game where someone like a shot was being measured. It was a question of whether or not it's range 2 or 3, and it's like I can't remember which one of you thought that someone had accidentally moved the ship in or out of range 3, and it was like, well, I 100% believe that both of you believe that it happened against your favor, right? Like nobody's lying about what happened in the game. So it's like I'm just gonna make up who's doing what. So like Zach was measuring a ship and maybe he knocked a ship out of range 3 or into range 2 or whatever, right? But stuff like that happens all the time, and it sucks because there's nothing you can do about it. Like when you get to the table, it's like, well, like none of us saw this, so I can't help you. And I want to minimize that from happening because it's been a problem that we've had in X-Wing like forever. And the solution that we've had forever has just been like, well, it is what it is. But actually, I don't think that's true. I think we can improve things. So I don't know the exact specifics, but I've been talking with our judge team for Worlds. We've got some ideas, so I'm going to drop kind of where we started. I can't promise this will be the end, but I told Tim that it's his responsibility to follow up with you guys and let you know what the final version will be so you can spread the word because I don't want it to be an ugly surprise to people. But in my head, the version is if you need to touch something to measure it, you don't need to touch something to measure it. You need to call a judge. So, like, let's say you're going to measure a shot and it's close. You're not sure if it's in range 3 or out of range 3. And you're like, okay, I'm going to put a finger on my ship to measure it. Don't do that. When you need to touch something on the board, it's time to just call a judge, have them do it. Because every time you touch something on the board, it moves, no matter what. Would you like go to hold the rock in place, right? What actually happens is you put your finger on the rock, and you don't mean to, right? It's not on purpose, but that rock moves. And like, let's say I'm moving my ship, and my opponent goes, well, I don't want my opponent to cheat me, understandably, right? Your opponent is your opponent. They don't have your best interest at heart, so they put a finger on the rock to make sure that you can't, just barely clear the maneuver by sliding out of the way. And I don't think usually that's done like on purpose. I don't think it's done like I'm gonna cheat, but it's like, if I'm moving my ship and I'm moving everything, it's easy to not see that I might have barely nudged something and be relieved that it fits. So, my opponent goes, oh, I'm going to hold the rock down. But now we just have the exact same problem in reverse. My opponent might accidentally slide the rock closer, and now my ship barely hits it, right? So whenever you're in these situations, the high level, what we want to encourage is you call a judge. And you make the judge do it for you. That's our job. I know that takes time.
I think that's easier to say than to enforce.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the 5 of us here talking today, and then other people as well. Just we're on a lot of the time. I think we're on the positive side of those potential mistakes. Like, for example, somebody who is either newer to the game or has been going to their first tournaments and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I've known Brian for a long time. I used to follow him TCX, like,
Yep.
and they have or playing against me or somebody or Duncan or Paul Heaver, any of the people that are more recognizable. It's easier to be like, I'm just going to, like, I don't want to. I don't want to create drama. I don't want.
Yeah, I don't want to make a scene, right?
Yeah, and and I've even had situations where I disagree with someone, and they literally said like, "Oh, you're not going to talk about this, right?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like they have
super unfair to them.
Yeah, they have that fear behind. They are like, "Oh, they're gonna roast me on a public forum or something like that." But the other scenario also is with Kayla, which is like the opposite end, where Kayla is very, very, and not just Kayla. I think women in general in X-wing, they feel like because there's so few women playing in X-wing that they're kind of not as vocal to be like, hey, judge, get this. So the enforcement of getting somebody to come in and making that a rule, like, hey, if you're gonna touch your ship for a narc check or for a range check or a bump. I think the bump is probably the biggest ones when you're and the messy things is some people feel intimidated, whether they're newer or whether they're part of like I said, in women in general, just like tend to be a little bit more intimidated in a guy's game.
Yeah, I mean, it's really easy to be surrounded by a sea of men that, I mean, I don't mean to be too harsh to our community in general, because in general, I think X-Wing tends to do pretty well with outsiders, but there's still like a massive social pressure to be like, well, I don't want to act up, and there's a lot of like inadvertently, even accidental, like sexist, like making a scene, negative connotations that can come from that. So it's easier to be like, you know what, it's just a game, I don't care. But it's not fair. It's the World Championship.
I'll just let it slide. Yeah. Yeah, like,
yeah,
I'll
exactly.
just let it slide, or just assume that like, oh, maybe they've been around longer, maybe they know better, when maybe they don't, or So that I like the idea of it. I think the enforcement of it is going to be
well, the enforcement is where we can start the drama, because I'm hoping broadly it's something that people want.
Enforcement is not the right word. The making people feel comfortable to call a judge portion of it, not enforcement. Enforcement was the wrong word, but just making sure that people that are new to the game, that are in their first tournament or at least in their first big tournament, feel comfortable enough and feel like, no, I'm not causing a scene. This is just normal. Calling a judge is normal. It's not like I'm not putting my opponent on blast. It's just normal.
Yep, and here's that incentive to get you to call a judge in these situations, which is where where the drama might come in. So again, this isn't the final version of this. This is what we're talking about to incentivize people to do what we want them to, basically, right? Call a judge when it's close. So let's say me and Ryan are playing, and he's measuring a shot, and I say, wait, I'm going to put a finger on my chip before you measure that. And then it's close, and Ryan's like, hey, I'm pretty sure you moved that ship when you touched it. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And you call a judge. It is in whatever is in Ryan's best interest is what that range will be. Same story with moving a ship. If I'm moving a ship and my opponent puts a finger on the rock to make sure it doesn't move, and it's close and we disagree about whether or not it hit, whatever is in my benefit as the person that didn't go touching things when they shouldn't have been is what the ruling is. Which means it's in your own best interest to call a judge on yourself when it's close to make sure that you get the outcome that you're expecting. So the end goal is to make it so that people don't have to advocate for themselves. Like charisma shouldn't be a stat that you need to do well on X-Wing. So yeah, I know that there's some potential cases for abuse there, right? Like I can, for example, say, like I go to move something and my opponent's like, do we call it judge? That's pretty close. And I say, no, it's not that close. It's not a big deal. And then I move it and now it is close. And my opponent's like, I'm going to call a judge and say that I asked to call a judge and you said no. And now you're on the rock when it was close, right? And a lot of that is people not being aware of what to expect. So that's why I want to put the word out early that like, hey, if you're doing things at Worlds that are close, call a judge. I will make sure that your game has enough time. I will hold up the whole tournament if I have to make sure your game has enough time. We got to do 5 rounds in a day. We got all the time in the world. It is the most important thing to me and all the judges and everybody involved in Adepticon is that everyone feels like they had a good, like fair experience. And I think we can improve on that in the X-Wing perspective specifically and kind of clear up some problems we've had for a long time.
Yeah, my 2 things so time, and so it was the logistical aspect in my mind, right? If your judge call amounts are likely to increase by some significant number.
Yes,
with
very
that
significant
statement. And will you or will you not have more or less judges or the same this year?
So I'm waiting for the final judge staff count in like the next couple days. I can tell you more. I can't tell you how much more because I don't know yet.
So you will have. So there will be some amount more, which is good.
Yes, Yep.
To try it.
And
So that's where the enforcement part of what. So the word enforcement could still be used in this context. Marcel, is just actually like the judges having them there enough, the time, etc., to actually like. I call a judge, and there can be a judge available or soon to be available. With that likely higher volume of judge calls than we would have had last year because of this year. Because I think there was even a small incentive last year for sportsmanship when judges saw it, right? Like it wasn't trying to tackle the same thing, but it seemed like it was kind of around the ballpark of it.
Right. There were a lot of people that we had product to give out and prizes to give out at our own discretion. So one of the things we chose to do it was like when people self-reported, like, "Hey, I screwed this game up," or like Marcel, that game I mentioned that we played a long time ago would be a very good example. So like if somebody did something like that, it was like, "Hey, this was against my own interest, but I know what the right thing was, so I did the right thing." Then we had product to give them.
That, by the way.
Tickets.
I got one. No, I've said I need to stop doing that. But I need to stop being.
Well, it's funny, right? Because like
last year, also like my round when I was 4-0 and I was playing against a guy from Spain, I basically I didn't self-report, but I told him what the rules were.
Yep.
Because I put him in a bad spot, and he's like, I put him where he's facing the rock. He's gonna fly over the rock and just have a bad time. And I told him, well, you can just like. It was a tractor. Like you can just like turn and shoot the other ship and fly the other way. He's like, no. And then he called the judge, and I'm like, I'm trying to help you out. So he called the judge, and the judge is like, yeah, you can do that. And then he ended up one-shotting my ship, and I was like, like bad idea.
Oh, so he gave me rotate 90 degrees from a tractor that never happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
the judge ended up giving me like a couple prize wall tickets for sportsmanship.
Yeah, it's like that situation in particular. It's funny. I have an unanswered rules question on the AMG forums that's been there for like 2.5 years. That is, hey, I'm playing Ensnare and I tractor my opponent. Am I required to tell them that they have the opportunity to rotate? And unsurprisingly, they don't want to answer that question. So one, props to you for being proactive and doing the right thing. But yeah, like basically, it's a personal goal of mine is to minimize how often we put people to be required to do the right thing against their own self-interest, because frankly, it usually doesn't happen, right? And it's not something we should expect of people. It's really nice when it happens, and I'm glad that it happens as often as it does, but we should have the incentives lined up correctly so that people do the right thing. So that is Drama Factory number 1. Drama Factory number 2 is, again, I don't have the file. It's actually Twitch chat question. This is a stream about the highest level X-Wing events and when and when or not to touch things on the field that do or do not belong to me as a player. Yes, Keck W. But no, the funny thing is, I realize that question listening to it. The thing that matters is not whether or not it belongs to you. What matters is whether or not it's the active ship being measured, right? So like if you are attacking with a ship and you're measuring range, one, you can measure range. I don't know how well I can. Do I have a range ruler here? Yeah. So when you're measuring stuff on a table, pro tip, your fingers are wider than ship bases. So if you like measure, can you see this? Does this make sense? If you put your fingers underneath the range ruler and put the range ruler on your fingers, you can put the ruler over a ship base, and line it up perfectly with the angle on it. So that way you don't have to touch anything, which is nice. But
I
really,
feel personally attacked by that, by the way.
Yeah, fair. But really the point here isn't like who owns what moving thing. It's just like, in general, there should be one thing being touched at any given time. And if you're worried about touching something else by moving that thing, it means it's time to get it built. And there's obviously cases where it's like, I'm going to do a 2-turn through the ship. Neither one of us cares. We're just going to mark the thing and get out of the way. That's fine, right? Well, what we're worried about is like, I'm going to do a 2-turn right next to this rock, and it's, a millimeter or 2 away from the rock. Don't just put your finger on it and say, let's see what happens. Just get a judge to do it for you. That way, I'm the bad guy, not either of you.
Yeah, this is a stream. This is our stream today, brought to you by Chris is the bad guy. and
Yes.
the rest of his judges.
We are the bad guy.
It may be drama fuel, but I applaud that you've identified the actual problem, the start of the problem, which is just the players touching things before the judges get there.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because so I was talking to Paul because we had a couple of so Josh Taylor did some science experiment testing because we're testing to see what players are going to do when we change the rules on them, right? So it's not as straightforward. It's like, oh, we're going to do this, and then therefore all the good outcomes we get are going to happen. You kind of have to watch and see what happens and make sure there's no unintended side effects and blah blah blah. Or, maybe weird stuff happens. But I was talking to Paul, and he said directly because I said something to the effect. I post a lot of hot takes on the internet. Okay, so I said something very aggressively, which was like, if you're touching stuff when your opponent is moving their ship, you're basically cheating, right? Which is like, that's obviously an overstatement. But he was like, no, a big part of X-Wing, and he didn't phrase it this way. This is going to sound more aggressive than what he said. But the crux of what he was saying is like, I need to make sure that when the judge gets to the table, the game state agrees with what I think. So if I put my finger on a rock and your ship moves and I think it hits the rock, I need to make sure that the ship and the rock are overlapping. So by putting my finger on there, I guarantee that you cannot move the rock out of the way, right? And I don't care. It's not my job to make sure that I don't move the rock very slightly in the path because I want you to hit the rock, right? I'm not going to move the rock in the way of your ship. But if I think the rock is in the way, I'm going to remove your opportunity to move it out of the way. Which is effectively what you see, like, and that's a very common pattern of behavior in like all the competitive players. It's like, advocate for yourself. Really, is what that's a roundabout way of doing. It's like saying, hey, I'm not going to let my opponents cheat me by slightly nudging things out of the way. I'm going to hold them in place. But it's like, well, from your opponent's perspective, you moved it in the way, and right, we're moving the accusation of cheating one step down the road, and it doesn't actually help. I mean, it does help if your result is to do well, but it doesn't help the integrity of the game.
Chris, can I ask you a question? If you're talking a lot about moving really close to obstacles, so before we get on to your next drama thing, a question popped into and really see. As a judge, where is the wiggle room acceptability?
That is a great question. So you remember when the first
Can I clarify it? If you're the judge moving the ship, not just the player.
Yeah, but yes. Oh, if I'm the judge moving the ship.
Yeah, where do you wiggle room?
Yeah, so the answer is there are some. I don't have any ship bases on me. There are some ship bases that are misprinted and are much wider than they should be, like from the very, very, very first print runs of first edition.
Really?
I doubt there are very many of those still in the wild, but occasionally they do show up, usually on accident, and you go to move their ship and you're like, what the hell is this thing? But yeah, like if you're like, hey, I want to use my template slack in this direction, you are allowed to do that. I wish that you weren't, and I wish that our components were better precision, but we're not going to have you call a judge and then have the judge tell you, no, I'm going to move this against your own best interest, because it goes back to the incentive question. I want you to call a judge because it's in your best interest to call a judge. And if we say the judge isn't going to use the tools the way that you would, as long as you're following the rules to the game, then you're not going to call a judge, right? So
Chris, you actually like some of the sets of templates, like some of us know which ones are a little more of the problem child, so to say. Have you, as a
talking about Boba Fett? I gotcha.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Boba Fett templates. Yeah, like have you, whether it's in World Qualifiers, UTO, Store Championships, in a testing platform, or even considered for Worlds, actually thought of like a event ban list for certain of those products that have been, like if you've gone back and looked at like which ones are more far off, whether it's crowdsourced or just yourself, if you've come up with a list or thought about a list that banned certain prized acrylic sets.
Yeah, so it's actually an even uglier question than that. So I talked with one of the FFG developers for second edition about this very subject, because this will shock you. They were also unhappy about the situation. And the answer was the reason that FFG, at least, was unwilling to tighten up the rules and say, your components must be within XYZ and you can't abuse the slack and you have to line up the central lines on your ship when you move it is actually not the OP stuff, it's the cardboard. The variations in cardboards and core sets is off enough that it is entirely possible that, like 2% of core sets, when you open one, you can't line the central lines of the cardboard up against the ship base because it's, 2 millimeters offset, and the center line actually just can't line up if you get a base that's off tolerance by a small amount in the templates. So I would love to do that. I think that would be a net positive towards the health of the game. I don't think it's in the event organizer toolkit. What we could do, what I would really love to do, and I don't think it could be at an official event, but Crate Cup 6, one day may it come to us. What I would love to do is say, hey, you're coming to Crate Cup 6. Here are your ship bases that you get to use. We are providing them for you. You can keep them. Here are your templates. You have to use these. And then we check the tolerances on everything so that everyone has exactly the same set of templates. There's no wiggle room in the components and everything. But that means the average cost per attendee is a set of templates at manufacturing cost is still $10 or $15. That was a few years ago, so it's probably more now. Even if you're buying 100 sets and a little bag of the ship bases is what, $7 or $8, and then we've got to go through and take out all the ones that are too big, and I just don't think it's feasible, which is a bummer.
And also just puts anyone that uses those templates at a disadvantage at a different event.
Right? Yeah. So it's every single event you would go to would have to provide templates for that event. It's I don't know if we want to live in that universe either.
There may be a chance where, at a Worlds event, right, if the participation is some of those tolerance-tested sets, if, similar to how they're doing the prize wall thing for this year, if it's, that's your template set you should ideally be using for the season, right, the year. Yep. Maybe that could work, but then, people who don't show up to Worlds, what do you do?
Yeah, no, cool, I didn't go to Worlds, I'm not allowed to play. Awesome. Yeah. And it's you could get one for the first tournament you went to, but then now AMG needs some software to track events that everyone's been to. And we saw how that went with FFG, so I don't have high hopes. Yeah, all right, I got Drama Magnet for you, number 2, which is, this is a little more nebulous because we're still working on the details. But again, part of it we can control is there is we have it's not common slow play problem, but there's definitely issues with some games where the game doesn't resolve, and it doesn't resolve because of we happen to not be able to do damage to each other, but because setup took a long time, movement took a long time, blah blah blah. Similar to what we're talking about with things moving, where you should be calling judges. We're looking at different proactive ways to try to improve that situation. It's a much harder problem to solve. Something very easy that I'm looking at doing, I don't know exactly what the time will be, but if it's X minutes into the round after time starts and your table hasn't started, you aren't into the first activation phase yet, you'll get a warning. If you get I don't know, I'm making up a number right now because we're not finalized yet. If you get 3 of those, you're ejected from the tournament. So your first game, you get a warning, and let's say it's your opponent's fault, right? You did everything right, you're ready to go. You get 1 warning. It doesn't matter because you're never going to get another one. Or let's say you get unlucky again, you get a second one the next round. Okay, it still doesn't matter because you're never going to get a third one. And obviously, if you start getting into that situation, you can start calling a judge and saying, hey, I'm ready to go. What do we do? But some situation I'm not willing to put people in is hey, we're 10 minutes into the round and time hasn't, we haven't even started moving yet. I've been sitting here twiddling my thumbs. How am I supposed to play this game? That's an easy catch, right? And that's something that's currently generally not policed in tournaments. It will be okay. If you call a judge, you'll probably get a time extension, right? But I think, James, you were saying, I don't want to call a judge. It should just happen. So one of my goals is to make that just happen. And I don't know all the details of what that'll look like.
But I missed some of the key parts of the first part of this you went into. This is your solution is looking at more of the setup start of the game to help.
One solution, yeah. The easiest, the lowest fruit to catch is setup, right? Because we
Sure.
know we know you should be ready. If you're not, if you know, if you're 5 or 10 minutes into the round and nothing's moved, we know something is wrong. That's easy to catch.
Okay, and that's consistent.
Everything past
So,
that is
like,
significantly more complicated.
and this is just like me thinking about the differences between lists, potential, and factions. One out, just something simple throughout. Like the time difference hasn't mattered comparing factions who don't have access to those scenario SL cards yet versus others, right? Like, so if you look at like First Order Resistance, right? If they bring a whole bunch of stuff, like Resistance got a stack of upgrades because of whatever, and they got their heroes, or like First Order has 6 ships and they all have like 2 or 3 upgrades per. Like, it hasn't been disparaging enough difference for that to be a concern.
So, yes and no. The key to remember here is we control when the round timer starts, right? It's not like it's a random event that happens. So we start the round when more or less everyone's ready to go at Worlds. Again, I can't guarantee that at every local event because, you know, we have to run 5 rounds a day at Worlds. I'm okay if that drags on. If we start at 9 and it goes until 7 or 8. I know that everyone would rather go faster. I would rather go faster too, but you're still going to be able to get dinner. But that way you get a fair experience. Even if it means we need an extra 10 minutes for everyone's setup, that's fine. I mean, it's unrealistic to think, I don't want anyone to feel like they missed out because their opponent set up slowly or whatever, played slowly. But I want to minimize how much that happens. And we all do, right? Like, no one wants that.
How big of a problem is that? I mean, the bumping and the other stuff, I think probably happens more often than what you're saying now.
Yeah, so I would say probably, so at like a World Open qualifier, I probably hear from 3 or 4 players of like 50 to 70, like, hey, I lost 1 or more of my games because I didn't get enough turns. Now, whether or not that's actually true is another question, right? But at least they left feeling that that was the case. So I'd be willing to bet there's at least one of those people that's just salty that they lost, right? Okay. But, I mean, I've personally witnessed it quite a few times. Like, at Nova, Paul kind of infamously goes around and tells everyone that their game is slow, like, hey, you got to pick the pace up. And we have kind of different criteria that we're looking at. I don't care how many rounds your game goes. I mean, I care in that, like, I would rather it be a higher number and the game goes well. But, like, I totally recognize if you're playing a First Order mirror and it's a bunch of stuff that just jams each other and doesn't do damage, ships aren't going to die, right? That's not either of your fault. The game's going to be very low scoring. But what I care is that you like had an opportunity to play enough rounds at a reasonable rate. So, yeah.
So in the past, it's been 5 minutes. I think it's been the rule in the past. Like, official is like if your opponent is not on their seat in 5 minutes.
Oh, it's way more generous than that. It used to be 15 minutes was when you 15? Got the game lost. Yeah. Just like actually ridiculous. Like a fifth
because
of the game.
I assume when the time starts, if your opponent's not there, if they show up when the time starts, then you're still going to start 10-15 minutes late.
Yep.
Because of all the setup and then, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, a lot of these problems usually you see at like World Open qualifiers because somebody will play somebody who's like new to the game round 1, and it's like they're slow at setting up because they don't know the setup rules. They're reading their cards because they're not familiar with their cards. That kind of stuff I don't really expect to be a huge problem at Worlds. So like I don't expect this particular slow setup thing to like really be an issue. I'd be surprised if we had to talk to more than 1 or 2 people of, you know, a couple hundred. But in general, just like I want to put the word out that like, hey, we're taking it seriously, and I think it's time that we start taking it more seriously than, you know, like wringing our hands and saying there's nothing we can do. It's just, you know, part of the game. Is that sometimes it sucks. It's like, oh, maybe we can make it better. We're not gonna be able to make it perfect, but hopefully we can improve it.
So I'm hoping something like this doesn't happen. But on the potential abusive side of the fence, say someone's worried about getting like a warning or that because of the timing and they're rushing and things like that.
Yeah.
But they're putting stuff on the table, right? They're trying to get all the charges out. They're trying to get all the shield tokens out, right? Mm-hmm. They're like, all right, I think I got everything. Game start. Let's go. Okay. Opponent across them, like they're getting the game started. They're setting dials. They set out the whole board. Opponent across notices one of their opponent's T70s is missing all 3 of their shield tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Then they call a judge. that a like if they're missing charges or tokens? I mean, that in my eyes, that's more of like, okay, just put them out there, right? But
Yeah, like you do have to put your charges out.
Yeah, like
But-
I didn't know if like the game had that like part of the I've recalled it was like an actual step in the game. I don't know, like if it's a May must situation.
No. So putting out game components is all required. Like you have to put your charges out. Like imagine a universe where you're playing Zam Crew who says set up, lose 2 charges, and you go, ha ha ha, I forgot to put my charges out, so I didn't lose 2. An hour later in the game, so I put my charges out and they're face up, right? Like it's like there's mandatory steps to set up, like putting out your shields and stuff. We all know it gets forgotten occasionally, right? Like people set up in a hurry. Like, it's okay.
Yeah, my normal answer, what I assumed was yes, just put the charges out.
Yeah, put your charges out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of why I hesitate to bring it up, and I know it's going to cause some drama because somebody's going to hear that and be like, "Oh my God, like I haven't played in like 6 months. I'm really nervous that blah blah blah." It's going to be okay, right? Like, if you have a problem set up round 1, the judge is going to say like, "Hey, I'm at your table because you guys are running late. Like, did something happen, right? Like, maybe there was an emergency. That's okay, right? Nobody's getting kicked out of the tournament. Just as a heads up, next time be faster. If you need help setting up, because I don't know, maybe you have some disability or something, right? Like you are missing an arm. Turns out that would make setup slower, right? We'll help you. We'll give you more time if you need it. But
actually,
yeah, just like in general.
Side note of that is, I think it is very worth getting in touch with any of the judge staff that you can. If you have any actual handicap, disability, or anything that may require special or needs or help for during a game, because as an example, my buddy Cody Wood at Nova had his clavicle had surgery on it because he broke it, and he was only about 2 weeks from having that surgery and going to Nova. And Chris set up like a table that he never moved from. He stayed there, offered to literally caddy his play of the game to some capacity. So if you're concerned at all about making sure you are accommodated, just talk to a judge as soon as possible.
Yep, and part of that is also like we're talking edge case roll better features that no one's uses. I mean, not no one uses, but like
there are like disability features in roll better.
Yeah, it's very so like Last Worlds. I assume the vast majority of people didn't notice because why would they? We had at least one player, it might have been 2, that were like assigned a permanent table that they played at. Their roll better just let us do, so we can set you up in one particular place. Like maybe you need to be, like I don't know, like Cody's a good example. He broke an arm, so not only does he need to stay at one table because it's going to take him forever to move his stuff, blah blah blah. But maybe he needs to be like on a certain side of like an edge table, right? So like you can't move your left arm. Okay, well we'll get you in a place where you're on the edge of a row, so you can get everywhere with your arm that's working, and yeah. So we can work around a lot of stuff, but yeah, heads up definitely helps. Those are ugly surprises the morning of, and obviously we'll accommodate you the morning of. It's just if we have time to prepare, we can do a lot better versus whatever we can figure out at the moment.
Are you guys gonna allow I forgot the full name of it, but something arenas like the printout?
Oh no, you'll have to use all your official cards and upgrades, or pilot cards and upgrades.
Okay.
And
and I get a lot of people that ask
capital letters BOOO boo.
Yeah, so it's funny because I get a lot of people that ask why, and it's like, well, there's really 2 answers. So the number one answer is like, well, because it's an official event and they want to, make sure that people have to buy the product to play. But that's actually not the real answer. The real answer is the marketing team goes around the bigger World Open qualifiers and events, and will go around and take pictures and stuff. And they have to throw out a huge number of pictures because of stuff that they can't put on like their Twitter and everything. So like if they come around to take a picture of your game, none of those are usable if there's like unlicensed art and everything, which is a bummer. So like there is actually a motivation for it. I know it sucks, but the other upside, especially for Worlds, is if you're using official cards, your opponent can see what they are upside down from across the table because they're used to the artwork. So like there's a lot of like most people playing X-Wing speak English, but there's a lot of not native English speakers, and if they can see like, oh hey, that's the crack shot art with the charge on it, then they don't have to ask you, hey, what's that card constantly, or like, hey, what's on your I don't know, wedge, and you have to pull out your Infinite Arenas card with a little tiny text on it. It's like, oh, it's crack shot, right? And usually I know people like, here's my printed list, but again, it goes back to non-native English speaker. They might not know the English name of the card.
So Chris, so as someone who brought 4 errated cards, 4 Pharaohsphere paints to Nova, I had the physical cards, the originals, and they're all errated. And I thought, and I'm pretty sure I cleared this with you before I came to that, otherwise I probably wouldn't have done this. I had all copies of my list, which are probably 3 of them. All of them on the back had the like gigantic large size print of the new errated Pharaohsphere. Would worlds be different in which I would need each copy of like a Pharaohsphere or a BB Astromech or whatever errata card you have that you may have multiple of or any of should actually be the card you put on your space?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I don't remember what the errata rules are off the top of my head, but I can tell you what we actually care about. So I don't know that it's the actual definition of what is legal and what is not. But what actually matters if you're running errated cards is that you have a non-digital reference easily accessible of it. Like the non-digital reference of the errata like printed out card. So, if you have it printed on the back of your list, whatever, that's fine, right? If you print it out and just replace your card with it. So like Pharaohsphere Paint's a good example because the nice thing about the errata cards is they just replace the original one. You don't have to have the original Pharaohsphere Paint card and then put one over it. You could just use the errata card, put it in a card sleeve. You don't have to go find, I don't know, they come in like A-Wings separately, right? So if you're running 5 copies of Pharaohsphere, you don't need to go buy 5 A-Wings. You can just print out the errata and you're good to go. But yeah, so what we actually care about is that you and your opponent have a reference of what the card actually does that you can get without needing to get like a phone or a tablet or whatever out, right? Or like a handwritten version of the card. So it's like, hey, yeah, here's my errata. It's on the back of my list. That's totally fine. As long as it's, the printed version from the errata document, which I think some squad builders do that automatically. Is that like a Yasby thing? I don't even remember off the top of my head.
I know Yasby didn't do that automatically. I know Yasby has bomb rulings on their printouts. That's an option, but I just did it myself. I just like, oh, I found the prints, and I'm just going to flip these pages over and put them on the back. And just print out my Pharaohsphere Paint and BB-8 or BB Astromech from Nova at the time.
Well, I'm going to bug Steven and say, hey, can we have this? Because that seems handy. Because I saw Duncan had the same thing at PAX. He had his list printed out, and he had his, errata chopper on the printed list, which is way more useful than on the card because then you can, when you hand your list to your opponent, it's like, hey, here's what chopper actually does.
And I remember Tyler, I think at one point just had if you recall the gigantic Anakin print. Yes. He almost put it on a shirt, I think.
Yeah. Please do not put your errata cards on your shirt as your only copy of them. As much as I respect it.
Yeah, because you're
another important question. So what is the official currency and minimum threshold for judge bribery?
True. I think cookies, as of Nova, you have to bribe in cookies. So yeah, Stanny's good to go.
Is there a certain number of cookies?
I have infinite amounts available technically.
No, it's funny because on a related note, people ask me what the prize wall ticket stuff costs and everything. It's like, man, I don't know. Like, AMG doesn't tell me stuff they don't need to tell me because why would they? They have some, security that makes sense. But my goal for the prize wall is, 1,000 tickets to change the point cost of a ship by 1. So I need 5 people to make Sticko 0 points for me, so I can always play him and not feel stupid.
So Chris, then, cookies will be at Worlds as normal. Because I'm driving. So if you want to already plan out a tiny space for cookies to exist, you can plan ahead.
I was going to say, I don't think we can say, hey, this is where the cookies go. I can probably not yell at you if there are cookies in a public space, though. Yeah, I'm trying to think. So I'm running down my list of stuff. So the last thing I've got is, Marcel, speaking of good things Marcel did, last year when I put out the announcement that was like, hey, we need help getting judges to Worlds, you came in immediately and were like, hey, the way our community treats judges and doesn't pay them and blah 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 sucks, and it's not acceptable to not pay them. We shouldn't be having fundraisers for fights and stuff, right? You are 1,000,000% correct. So I can give some more detail on that whole situation now. So there are really, this will shock you, there are really strict laws on how much you can pay people before they need a visa, which is absurdly expensive. And it turns out that amount, I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It's like $700 or $800 or something. Is significantly less than the price of a plane ticket from Australia to the U.S. So the reason we're having a fundraiser at all is basically not from the judges aren't being compensated / paid for Adepticon. Adepticon actually takes care of people pretty well. I don't want to give out all the specific. The people that are judges and everything are more than welcome to talk about that stuff if they want to. I just don't want to. I don't know, it's not my business to tell people what other people are getting paid. So they get taken care of pretty. I mean, I'm happy with it. But it's not $2,500 for a ticket from Australia, right? So we're gonna have a fundraiser again this year. Something I want to do is not just go around begging for money, because I don't know. I think people like to donate more if they get like some small thing to remember, and it also shows like that it means more to us. So why did I put that token away? Let me get it. So I don't have a prototype yet because I'm waiting on my final staff count from Adepticon still. But so our head judge last year is Tim Horsberg, who runs the Logic Dump Gaming, who makes these cool little scenario markers that are super thin acrylic, so you can put stuff on them and it doesn't impact the game. They have felt on the bottom. They also have pictures on the front, so this is a little, goofy face. But the plan is I'm going to get all my judges line art caricature artwork. So, like, let's say you're from the UK and you really want to make fun of Chris Mitchell. He's going to be my prototype one. We're going to have one of these little scenario markers that has Chris Mitchell's face on it. And you can, for every, like, I don't have the final details because I don't know the production cost of this stuff yet, but I'm guessing, ballpark $10 for every $10 you donate to the Help Judges Get to Worlds Fund. You get a marker you get one scenario marker and, up to however many there are total. And B is not judging. He's actually playing this year, which is very wholesome. But I think we'll have, if you get a full set, you also get a D one. And if any of our other judges have to back out from last year for whatever reason, we'll make sure that you can get their face too. So, maybe it would be like, let's say 10 is the final number of judges that I get. You could pay $100, donate $100, whatever you want to call it. You get 11 of these, one for each judge and then one for D, right? Which hopefully is cooler than just like a, hey, thanks for the donation. It means a lot to us, which it does. But like, it's hard to communicate that to people because I don't know. It always, at least saying it feels hollow. Despite it was actually really wholesome last year when I put that GoFundMe up. I posted it, and then I hopped in the shower. Right? It was like, okay, well, it was during my work day. So I was doing it like during my lunch break. So I put it up. It was all ready. And I got in the shower, and my phone just went crazy, vibrating. I was like, "What is?" So I'm sitting there in the shower, like dripping wet all over the floor. Go to check my phone, make sure no one like died, and it's just like a million emails from the GoFundMe thing of people donating, which was super cool to see. But I don't want to ask that of everybody to just get nothing back. So hopefully, just like a little cute memento is good. So I'll put out details on that when we've got them for more specifics. Okay, that's my sales pitch.
I mean, it's awesome to see the worldwide community there. So I do think it's important to have those community leaders from each of the parts to really make it feel as worlds as it can.
Yeah, it's funny. I wrote down. Was it you I was talking to about this a couple weeks ago, Ryan? Leading up to 2023 Worlds, there was a lot of pressure. I guess for anybody that's played X-Wing since like first edition, Worlds has always kind of had this reputation of like, yeah, it's Worlds, but it's in North America. It's hard to get to. if you're outside of the US. All the judges are American, all the OP staff are American. And that's not entirely true, right? Like there's some OP in Europe and blah, blah, blah. But like the general vibe was like Worlds is American Worlds. It's not Worlds. And something I really worried about and still kind of worry about, and not as much, I think we've hopefully earned some trust on it, is that especially as that moves over to like, hey, now it's not AMG directly going to be running Worlds. They've got people in the community running it. And like, I'm American, right? I live in North Carolina. Like, I would 100% understand and even expect in a lot of cases, like if I lived in France or Germany or the UK or whatever, it's like, am I really going to be treated the same as some American player? Like if I'm sitting on a table and me and my opponent have a disagreement and, you know, the judge is American, my opponent's American, you know, they're friends or whatever, like, is it really going to be fair? Like, I don't believe it. And especially, it's probably funny for people who started playing in like 2021, 2022. Like, I have a reputation as like anti-European, which is like funny jokes online in like 2016, 2017. Myself and like the Delapinas would, you know, fight over the internet back and forth. But a lot of people thought it was like serious. So I would 100% understand if people that were around there would be like, dude, I don't trust Chris to run a Worlds. He's like the most pro-America, anti-Europe, blah, blah, blah person ever. It's like, well, not really, but I get it, right? So I think, I hope that most of that is gone, that people, like, I don't know, it matters a lot to me. And obviously it matters to like Tim and Chris Mitchell and Chris Sheriff, who are Australian, European, and from the UK, that people from all over the world feel like they're going to have a fair time. But it's, I mean, again, it feels kind of empty to say versus actually implement. So yeah,
except Canadians, right? Like we can completely.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Yeah. We can dogpile on Canadians.
Yeah, everyone who's not Canadian gets 3 bonus points at the start of the tournament. Yeah,
Europeans are
100%.
Australians are safe. Yep.
Especially now that Canada couldn't defend their XCC championship and the USA won, so 100% dogpile Canada.
We simp for Doug in this house.
Doug, how?
Till the end of time. But yeah, it's actually been really, like, on that whole subject of like community support, it's actually been really cool to see people like willing to donate to get everybody from outside the US there, which is like obviously cool. But there's a lot of American people that donated for that too. And, you know, I hear from like European and Australian people like, hey, you know, it really means a lot that we're able to get these guys out here. And but it seems like it really matters to Americans too to make it, because like we feel it too in the other direction where it's like, yeah, it's Worlds, but like in like 2017, 2018, it's like these are the same judges that were at Gen Con. It's the same FFGOP staff at Gen Con. So like it's just another big tournament for us. But you know, if you're flying over from Spain, it's the World Championship. So it should really feel like it. So yeah. So I'm hoping that sticks. I've tried to stay out of internet drama so that you know, doesn't contribute to it. I don't know how much it actually helps though.
Well, do you have anything else?
I was going to say, I mean, I sent you a tournament format thing. We can talk about what 300 players in 10 rounds sounds like, but it is midnight, and I don't want to keep talking your ear off if you guys are good.
No, I mean, I got time for another segment.
This is mostly going to be a more of a selfish question for myself, because I'm looking to commission commission a squad for a paint job for Worlds. And you made the joke about like, oh yeah, just don't make your ships look like Harry Potter or something or whatever.
Yeah.
I assume I'm not going too far off the end by just, they're going to look like the ships that they are, and they're just going to get a new paint job that makes them look a little more like race cars, basically.
Yeah. So like, do you remember the like component guidelines that went out last year that were like?
Yeah. Same thing then.
So. Yeah, I mean, similar. I don't have the wording for it off the top of my head because I have to go put the finishing touches on it. But like at a high level, the stuff that AMG doesn't want out there is like, you shouldn't have templates to the game that say like, you know, Harry Potter Slytherin on them, right? And then like they're all over the place and in pictures, because it means they can't use them. It means there's confusion about like branding and blah blah blah. If you've got cool ships that are painted red, white, and blue or whatever, and it's like, I like Captain America, so I painted it red, white, and blue. Cool. If whatever, right? If you've got your X-wing with a Captain America mini on it, like, okay, probably not cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
So paint schemes, cool. Branding and other product looking stuff, not cool.
Yeah, I mean, basically.
Yeah.
And I know that that's like kind of a gray line for some edge case stuff. And I'm not like a copyright / lawyer person. Realistically, I don't care, right? Much like all this stuff, like AMG tells us what they want, and we get there the best way we can. Run everything by them. So I don't know exactly what they care, like exactly where their line is or what they care about. But like let's say if you had, I don't know, like if you had sorting hats that said Harry Potter on them as your focus tokens or something, right? Like you're out of bounds for two reasons. One, how is your opponent supposed to know it's a focus token? And two, like you're way past the line of IP problems. So I mean, like what Chris the TO cares about is I care that your opponent can quickly identify what your tokens and cards and components are without even needing to think about it. What AMG cares about is not getting into copyright problems and being able to publish pictures. Hopefully the intent is useful there for the two things that they care about. If you've got edge case questions, you can send them to me. I probably won't know the answer to your question because I don't know where the IP lines are, what they care about, but I can find out for you. So
I just recall that one of the most hurt people was Duncan because he couldn't attach his Legos to his ships.
Yes. Well, and it's funny because so the real root problem with all of this stuff is not X-Wing. They care what we do, right? I don't want to say they don't care. But like we're not the problem children here. So there's a lot of like 3D printed alternate models people use for like Shatterpoint and Legion and everything that are what get people in hot water. Like, oh, check out my cool terrain I made. It's like you can't 3D print this thing and then put it on a table, paint it up like some Star Wars stuff. Like you're gonna have problems, right? So all of our stuff is kind of downstream from that. Hopefully the giving you more details on the motivations makes it a little more clear at least.
Well, you said you had another segment to potentially do, or are we?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got here's some shameless self-promotion. Well, kind of self-promotion. The target audience is like 9 people on Earth, so maybe some handful of them are listening. So something that we've done a bad job of, like, as a collective community, that's really not fair because I'm talking about like 6 or 7 people, is kind of publishing the how and why of why tournaments work the way they do and such. And like that information just doesn't exist, right? The places you can find it are in like Magic forum, like Magic the Gathering, rules forums discussions, and then like academia textbooks, which are both, neither of those are particularly accessible. So I've been doing I started last week, a couple weeks ago, a YouTube series on like, hey, dude, what is the term? Why do we do any of this stuff the way that we do? So I started it with intentional draws because that's the hot topic of the month. So I kind of started at an advanced level because that's what everyone's going to ask about anyways. So actually tomorrow I'm recording the next one of those, and it is quite literally Chris in front of a whiteboard giving a pseudo lecture on tournament formats with pictures and stuff because it's really hard to follow without pictures. So yeah, I'm recording the second one of those tomorrow, and then like later this month I'll start, from the beginning, like, hey, here's what a Swiss tournament is, here's round robin, here's why they work, here's how they work, blah blah blah. And I'll probably just do one a week and post them to YouTube. And that way people can post questions and stuff, and we can kind of go over them with the class and, keep posting them every week. So it's really tailored towards people that are like, hey, I got to figure out how to run a league for my store, or like, hey, on the other end, like I got to run a World Open qualifier, but I don't know how many rounds to run or why or what any of this stuff means. And nobody that I know knows either. So that's kind of it's like a small target audience, right? It's not really geared towards like, hey, I'm a competitive player. You're welcome to listen to it. You'll probably learn how to do better at tournaments because you'll know when to consider stuff like IDs and everything. But yeah, I know the target audience is small. But as a side effect, like I sent out do you have the picture I sent handy, Will? Oh, there it is. That's the YouTube still. Can you put the picture that I sent out, the 10 round Swiss with 300 players?
You put it. You sent it to
he's
me.
got it. It's over top of it.
No, he's looking at 50 players in 6 rounds. I put it in the voice channel here. It's the second to last post. I can send it again if it would help, but
I'm going to click on this and see if it goes to a voice channel or a text channel in our voice.
Yeah,
are you messing with me? Are you messing with me?
All right, here you go.
Inside the computer?
It's inside the computer?
Now you got notifications in there. It's crazy.
I don't even know where that is. Just send it to me, personally.
All right, it's like
where am I looking?
I got you.
Oh, I clicked it. Oh my gosh, I found it. Anyway, so this, but 300 players.
Yeah, but so because we can talk directly about Worlds, and that's probably more people care more than some hypothetical 50-person tournament.
That's perfect.
All right, well now I got to pull it up. Check W. Okay, there it is. So let me know when you're good, or I don't know if you already got it. Like
I'm working on. There's a small delay,
okay.
But
all right, don't worry, I'll fill air for you. So one of the upsides of looking at stuff like tournament math is you pick up a lot of the finer details for like how these things work. So you can draw out a tournament because we're just going to pretend draws don't exist for a second. Like the results and brackets for tournaments for player results are all they're deterministic, right? If you have 300 people play a game, 150 have to win and 150 have to lose, which means over the course of the tournament you can see what your standings are going to be. So we're looking at Worlds here. I'm guessing 300 players, plus or minus a lot. But it means that, like, let's say you're at round 8 of the tournament and you're like, hey, am I going to make cut if I'm undefeated? And you can see, well, there's 2 undefeated players and I can draw twice. So yes, you'll make cut because we looked at round 10, top 16. There's 16 players exactly at X and 2 or better. And if you're 8-0 and 2 draws, then you're better than those 13 players. So you're guaranteed to make cut. But yeah, I mean, basically one of the upsides of being familiar with tournaments is having a very good understanding of like when you're safe to draw, when you're not safe to draw, which is rare or should be given a good tournament format. But yeah, so if you want to know what charts like this really mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this because again, it's been a couple hours. But yeah, so I don't know if you like math and want to learn about tournaments, come join us for tournament math class. I think I'm going to call it Better Know a Tournament, but I think that might be too old of a reference for anyone to get anymore, which, all the better.
Do you have what do I want to say? Can you TLDR TLDR how do I want to phrase it? The solution that you've come up with to the format, the tournament format problem. Is it is there a single solution you've been able to identify, or is it you have to do multiple things?
Yeah, so I mean, I assume when you say the problem, you mean like intentional draws and ugly cuts?
Yes, exactly. To make it cleaner and more feels good, I guess. Like nobody feels, cheated out of the top cut or anything.
The short story is, no matter what you do, people are going to feel cheated. That's not like a therefore you can do nothing and wash your hands of it. It's just like it can be really difficult, especially after a tournament, to like figure out what's good feedback and what's bad feedback, because everybody that made cuts or did well is going to be like, oh yeah, everything was great, and everybody that didn't is going to be like, it's everyone's fault but mine. But you can sort out some stuff. So the massive mega turbo TLDR is that the bigger your cut is to your tournament, like as a percentage of players, the more intentional draws you're going to have. So if you have 100 players in a top 32, you're going to have an unbelievable... I mean, look at Worlds, LCQ, right? We had 160 players in a top 60. There was a silly amount of... Like, the last round may as well have not existed, right? The second to last round also, if everyone had been paying attention to their tournament math, also should have been all draws, but it wasn't, thankfully. So smaller cuts helps, and more or less Swiss rounds. One thing AMG doesn't have and should is if you Google Magic, I think it's Appendix E. Appendix E. Yeah, if you Google Magic Appendix E, this is the recommended number of Swiss rounds in Premier tournaments, which is like their equivalent of Worlds, basically. Like that size of event, like 200 players and larger. We don't really like if you're running a World Open qualifier. The AMG suggested rounds is like 4 rounds of Swiss and then cut to top 8, which is great if you're running a 1-day event. But it's horrible if you're running a 2-day event, and they don't give you good guide rails to follow for 2-day events. So you kind of have to look elsewhere. People have kind of fallen to tradition to X-Wing for like, oh, I'll just play 5 rounds of Swiss and do a top 8 or top 16, regardless of how many players you have. And there's some huge pitfalls you can accidentally fall into. So if you're not sure what to do, check the magic appendices, basically, as soon as you get to like over 32 players. You can check the Pokemon ones as well, but those get, if the Pokemon reference tells you to run a 14-round Swiss, that doesn't help you much. So... yeah, Turbo Mega TLDR is make your cut smaller than you think you should and your Swiss rounds more than you think you should. Mm-hmm. And if you need to run, for some reason it doesn't occur to people, and it's kind of counterintuitive. If you can run 5 rounds of Swiss in a top 16, the top 16 is 4 rounds of cut, right? Top 16, top 8, top 4 finals. Then you can actually run 6 rounds of Swiss in a top 8. No, it's the same number of rounds, right? And it's a little awkward to run 5 rounds of Swiss the first day, 1 more round of Swiss, and then a top 8. But if you think about it, it's not meaningfully different from running it as a top 16 in terms of like you just have to tell people after day 1, hey, if you're mathematically eliminated from the tournament, don't feel obligated to come back. Right? It's not a big deal. So you'll avoid a lot of your problems if you do that, basically.
I think it also depends. I mean, we've gone over this a couple times, talked about this in a previous episode, but I think it also kind of depends on just availability. Like if you only have availability to do a 1-day event, and all your players only want to do a 1-day event, then you're kind of hamstringed by that.
Yeah, it's like you're picking the least bad option in a lot of ways. Like if you only have time for a 1-day event, you're probably playing a tournament that's like the undefeated player at the end wins, right? You're going to play 6 or 7 rounds, and the one player that hasn't lost by the end of the day wins.
Yeah.
And it is what it's not ideal, right? But you don't have any other options. And if you're playing a 2-day event, it might be effectively, once you get your second loss, you're out of the tournament. And that won't be strictly exactly true, but you might go undefeated until the very finals and lose 1 round.
Or 4 Swiss and top 4 or something.
Yeah, exactly. But the main reason we see lots of IDs is basically X-Wing traditionally has had huge cuts, like 100 players top 32, 50 players top 16, and since you couldn't draw in the game, it didn't matter. But now since you can draw, our traditions are causing us problems, and we should swap to, I say more normal, but it feels weird to people that are not outside of X-Wing tournaments. Mm-hmm. So, like, if you play a chess tournament, I tell you, 50 players, you play 7 rounds or whatever. They're like, yeah, okay, whatever, sure, makes sense. But an X-Wing player is like, oh my god, 7 rounds, what the hell? So,
yeah. That's fair. Now, I do like the visual you gave here, because it shows that you're not just like choosing this number at random. That if you look at it after round 10, these numbers mean 1 undefeated, 3 X and 1s, and 13 X and 2s, which is as close to top 16 as you can get.
Right. And, we'd be blessed and lucky if it's that clean, because, people are pretty smart. In round 9, that those top 7 players will probably ID when they hit each other, because they'll be guaranteed into cut, and you'll have those 10 players playing for the last 11 or 9 slots. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like generally speaking, like it gives you a rough idea of what to expect.
Yeah. I mean, I like it for the fact that the person who played at the top table all day, went like undefeated for 9 rounds, right? Like if they play that 10th round, they can lose it. Like could, their dice just, don't work or something goes wrong, right? But if you had started the cut that round, that their undefeated first place in seeding basically means nothing once you go into elimination rounds. So it does give that top player a little bit extra buffer too.
Right. It should be, assuming that we trust that X-Wing is a game of skill. You should get the best player winning consistently the more rounds of Swiss you run, and the smaller your cut. That gets boring quickly though when you just say, yeah, we're just going to run 15 rounds of Swiss and not have a cut. So like there has to be some trade-off somewhere. But
well, it sounds like from what you've described, at some point your games won't matter because you're not in.
Yeah, basically.
You're not even in the ability to get to it, which is what we used to do. Like the graduated cuts was kind of just like an oversimplification of it. Which
yeah, well,
is
here's I got a. You ready for a maybe mind-blowing moment?
blow my mind. Let's go.
All right. So you intuitively get if I tell you, hey, you're 0-3, you're eliminated from the tournament. None of your games matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
There's an inverse to that where I can say, hey, you're X and O. None of your games matter anymore, right? Not usually the way we think about it, but right, if you're playing a 6-round tournament and you're 5-0, your last round doesn't really matter. And let's say there's 2 undefeated players, because either you're going to play the other guy and you're going to win or lose, and one of you will be the number 1 seed, and one of you will probably be the 2 seed because that's how strength of schedule works. Or you'll intentionally draw, and one of you will be the 1 seed and the other one will be the 2 seed. Like the outcome of the game is irrelevant. Even if you played it out. Like the tournament itself doesn't care if you win or lose. Much like we don't care about the 0-4 player winning or losing. Like obviously we care about them, but like we don't care about the outcome of their game. We don't care about the people that have already passed into the tournament. Like sure you can pair them, but it doesn't matter. And that's where intentional draws happen. So intuitively, intentional draws happen when games that don't matter are in your tournament. So you will kind of want to minimize the number of times you have games that don't matter, which is why smaller cuts reduce intentional draws.
Sure, makes total sense to me. I'm interested to learn more though, in the upcoming series. Final thoughts on that, Chris? And I'm gonna turn it over to my boys for questions if they have any.
I don't have a lab coat. I'm sorry. That's my final thought.
That's okay. We'll fundraise you one. Don't worry. We will bring one. We will bring one to Worlds. Do not worry. We will have one.
Somebody will now. Somebody's gonna bring me a lab coat. Then AMG is gonna tell me I can't wear it. Thank God, it won't be my fault.
We crowdfunded a robe for you back in 2019.
That is downstairs. That robe is so comfy. I still wear it actually. It's my robe at the moment.
All right. But yeah, want to check in with you guys. Any last lingering questions for Chris or about Worlds?
I don't have anything. I think it was a lot of stuff during the discussion, so currently good for now.
No questions for me. I think I hit all of my questions.
I understand the currency is cookies, so I think my.
That's all you needed to know.
Yeah, cookies equal tournament points. So, as well known.
You may as well give me the trophy now. So.
Well, yeah, no. In all seriousness, yeah, I'm really. If you had told Chris in like 2016 or 2017 that I was going to be TOing Worlds, I would have laughed at you because that was a ridiculous concept. So it's really cool, and I appreciate the opportunity a lot. I'm really excited to see everybody. I'm hoping that it all goes smoothly, but obviously things are going to go wrong, but we'll try to make it right when it goes wrong. And yeah, a final thank you to all the judges and staff that you'll see there along the way. Again, I don't want to start saying names because I don't know what my final count is yet, but I can promise you that Tim and Chris Mitchell will be there. Well, they told me they'd be there. I can't promise they'll go. So that'll be our head judges this year. 2 head judges. Dangerous.
Ooh, wow. Who's the tiebreaker, huh?
Yep, thank you to them. So I think the tiebreaker is Josh Taylor, the literal lawyer, which is like...
Fair enough. I mean, from my last experience with Worlds, from everything I've heard about the tournaments this season, hopefully the feedback has been good for you as well. But everyone seems very excited about it, and I mean, you're too humble to come on here and brag about your accomplishments, but you really have kept some sanity in what could have easily devolved into chaos in the tournament scenes. So to come back and have a very successful year should be amazing.
On that note, if you've got negative feedback, I know it's never fun to deliver negative feedback, but that is the most useful stuff. It's like, hey, I went to this tournament and this thing went poorly and I didn't enjoy whatever because of it. I promise I won't yell at you or be offended. We'll just figure out how to try to prevent that. The negative feedback I've gotten on Worlds and everything has been the most helpful stuff in making improvements for the future. So massive thank you to everybody who, I don't know, like it takes guts to message somebody that you don't really know and be like, hey, this thing you did, I didn't like it, right? So yeah, obviously I appreciate it being constructive, but
well, I'm glad you're able to come on here, show us that you're just a person, just like each one of us. That people shouldn't be intimidated to question. But I mean, we've seen the work you've done, and the data that you come from it. So I think it's been very successful. All the hard work you have done, along with the other judges for X-Wing, and honestly, like other games should start adopting it too.
Well, the secret is we're stealing from other games, so we're behind the curve. But you'll walk over to a chess game and be like, you know what, you guys should do this. They're gonna look at you like, duh.
You guys should intentionally draw your last rounds of Swiss. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Check.
Awesome. Well,
but yeah, thanks. That means a lot.
I'm very excited. The 7th, just want to reiterate the dates here. The 7th is when they go on sale, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that is the
Adepticon. Opens January 7th. You have them between January 7th and February 26th to get your Adepticon tickets.
Adepticon 2024 registration opens January 7th at noon Central Time. EST. So I'm going to assume they got their daylight savings right.
Nobody does. So close enough. Whatever the computer tells us,
And last year the website for registration blew up. So, if it doesn't respond for a little bit, don't panic. It'll come back.
Very true. All right, I'm excited about the different events, so I'll be checking out that in the following week. Very excited for Worlds. So it was so surprising last time. I mean, not like the Worlds was surprising, but a lot of fun things came out of it. A lot of surprises along the way, so I'm excited for another year of just seeing everybody. It was great to finally, after so long, seeing everybody come back.
Yeah, no joke.
And Chris, as well, leading up to Worlds, if you feel like there's more you have to say, let us know if you want to come on another cast for any major updates or things that you want to share with the community for the Worlds event. John, again, if you
I think if you guys are up for it, I'd like to send Tim and Chris your way, because they'll be able to more directly answer rules stuff. I mean, they can't answer on behalf of AMG, despite being the AMG rules people, which is always hilarious to me. But, really, a big part of all the implementation stuff is going to be what those guys think the best solution is, what the full judge team comes to. I never saw myself as a manager in life ever, but, a lot of the stuff is I'm bringing to them and saying, hey, good luck, figure this out, and, helping, but kind of delegating. So I would love to send them your way, because they'll have much better, more direct feedback on exactly what they're going to do, because, if something gets escalated all the way up to the head judge, that's not me. That's going to be one of those two. So they will actually be the one making the decision.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good exciting to have them on. I don't know that the logistics of having them both on at the same time, being that one's in Australia and the other in...
Yeah. Trust me, I know that problem all too well.
So I bet scheduling judge talks can be difficult. So can you recommend a time of day? So
as we know from XCC trying to schedule events, Australia and Europe and America don't mix as far as time zones go.
Yeah, it was much easier when I was up at like 3 and 4 a.m. But now that I'm a more responsible adult, it's been a lot harder.
Yeah, it's only been a year. I feel like I'm the exact same way.
Responsibilities. Yeah. Gross.
Responsibilities.
All right, very exciting stuff in the future. We're gonna wrap it up out for this episode. Remember, me and James do Wednesday streams, and look forward to the last North American World Qualifier in Las Vegas, the 21st. I always question it. Why do I question it, James? It's Friday the 19th. Yeah. The cut is on the 21st. So
that is in 3 weeks, just shy of 3 weeks.
3 weeks. There it is. Very exciting stuff. And then, of course, James DeDion will be holding down the fort for Worlds at Adepticon. Yeah. So stay tuned.
Hopefully, I don't see you in that booth anytime soon.
No, we'll be playing. What?
You made
Marcel?
Marcel,
you you got into the cut too. Oh, you've qualified. Me and
no, not that. The last time was the only
not the
time
cut.
I did it.
I'm sorry. For us, plebes out there, still have to go to the last chance qualifier. Making it to Worlds is our cut. So.
Oh yeah, I don't think we ever mentioned the LCQ details, so I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. The LCQ is hard this year. I mean, it was hard before, but it's.
You said that it's top 16
every 16 players plus one.
That's gonna be a hard LCQ, so good luck. That'll be brutal.
Glad I'm not in part of that one.
So there'd be.
I do not want to be the last one in that one because that's significantly harder.
80 players makes only 5 invites. Oof. Well, Ryan, you're going to have to do a little bit better than sneaking in at like 60 this year.
Yeah, because you barely made it last year, right?
Look, if it wasn't for the top guy there was a bubble of like 10 people, and Tony, I think.
Tony, yep. Yeah, he got into his brakes went out.
Okay, good. I remembered his name. I felt so bad if I didn't get his name right. He was the top of that last 10, and his car broke down that morning. It was the only reason why I was one of the 9 people let in, because I was number 60 and he was 51.
Yep. Yeah, I felt like like an executioner walking down there. Like, oh, this is how many tables we have. This is how many you're making it through. But turned out it was everyone, so it wasn't much.
Yeah, it turns out it was almost everyone.
Hey,
everyone immediately turns towards me after hearing that thing. What did you do to his car? No.
So
I offered him many cookies and beer.
Because last year we were trying to just fill seats up to a number, right, for Worlds, and this year we're not doing that. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. There will be people from the LCQ that are on standby, but it'll be if the people in the LCQ, so like let's say Ryan was playing the LCQ for some reason and he was 9th and there were 8 invites given out, it would be in case the 8th one of the top 8 couldn't make it. It's not, we have an extra table, therefore we're going to let in a couple more people.
But you're not trying to fit a number into Worlds, right? You're not trying to get like a perfect number into Worlds. Like I think what we were trying to do last year, correct?
Right.
It was last year we were trying to get in because the format for the LCQ was already announced as a top 50, and we didn't want to like rug pull people, right? Because we got more details. It was like, hey, we're gonna have a little bit more space on the day of than we thought. It was like, well, we could fix the LCQ thing and make it a little harder, but then harder as in more selective to get out, and then we could use that space for other stuff. It was like, well, let's just bring in more people and make use of that space. So we could have had other side events. So it was like, we'll just let in more people. But yeah, this year that is not the plan.
Gotcha. Okay.
Cool.
Gotta qualify.
Good to know. Good to know. Even more pressure, man. If you thought Worlds was hardcore, take a run through the LCQ for a while, because that's where the cutthroat players are going to be.
The good news to me, at least, is like if you miss out on making it into Worlds proper, the only thing that you miss out on is the opportunity to win the whole, in terms of pricing, right? It's the opportunity to win the whole thing and the participation cards. You can still get all the other choose your own prize stuff. So I'm hoping the FOMO isn't that bad if you fail to qualify. You still got lots of stuff, lots of games to play, lots of cool prizes to get.
And the duos, in addition to the open library, sounds like just a cool place to hang out. But we got to run out of here, Chris. Get to bed. You guys are on East Coast time, so.
Yep. Sorry for holding everybody long.
No, we'd love to have you. Come back anytime. Seriously. But for everybody at home, goodbye. Thank you. Gold Squadron out. Stay safe, stay smart, whatever I say at the end of these.
Thank you to ISO, Danko, Baffle, Trojan, Prophet, Shadow, Tycho, Spice, Raider, Lancer, Fallen, Row 6, 626, Chief, and J List, our Grand Admiral patrons. And all of our Gold Squadron patrons and community members, thank you for your support. Gold Squadron out.